Hi everyone, please subscribe to my channel. Blood Immortal. See playlist for other chapters and novels. Join now our Telegram channel now and enjoy exclusive early access. t.me/blood_immortal_official. I do not translate the novels. Credits goes to original translator and author of the novel. I only make it as an audiobook so it would be easier to just listen while doing other things. Credits goes to the author of the novel. I convert stories to audiobook for mental health, for multitasking purpose, for accessibility and time saving. Listening to audiobook is also beneficial for people who have disability. It improves our listening skills and improve our English comprehension, vocabulary and other things. So, thank you for listening. Thank you and thank you very much for your support. Chapter 501. Self-Destruct, My Brother. Chapter 501. Self-Destruct, My Brother. Lin Fan had not expected this middle-grade Dao weapon of Long Zon to be this powerful. There was practically no chance given at all. However, now that Long Zon was focusing totally on expelling the effects of Bigra from his body, there was literally no better chance than now for Lin Fan to escape. Bigra was definitely a mythical pill. So what if the other party was a desolate celestial upper-level being? He still had to use up all his attention just so he could deal with Bigra. As long as he could make it out of this place safely, Lin Fan was certain that he would have to improve on the effects of Bigra, such that even a little bit of it was enough to cause anyone to break down entirely. Long Zon stood there in a half-man half-dragon figure. His long hair was floating on the back of his body like a horse's mane dancing in the breeze. His mouth was wide open, absorbing all the essence of the dragon world, converting it into white dragons as they were infused within his body. This fellow was just borrowing external strength to expel the medicinal effects of Bigra. All of these methods were causing Lin Fan to be amazed. Lad, you're pretty decent to be able to force me to this state. I'll admit that I've been careless. Even while Long Zon was in this devouring state, he was keeping a close eye on Lin Fan. Not only was this lad tricky, he was sneaky and crafty. No one knew what sort of methods he would deploy next. HMPH. Lin Fan snorted coldly as he took back his eternal axe. You're a traitor, Long Zon. Don't act high and noble before me. Yours truly isn't afraid of death. Nirvana finger. Deflowering finger. Even though Lin Fan's body was rooted right now, he had long since mastered these two skills to an impeccable level. He could conduct attacks from any part of his body. A crisp exploding sound boomed out as a boundless amount of energy struck out at the binding dragon whip. However, just as Lin Fan was retaliating, the electric dragon sent out an electric shock that cruised itself through Lin Fan's entire body. This devastating aura suppressed Lin Fan's consciousness. Give it up. This binding dragon whip isn't something that you can break out of. Even the mighty heavenly dragon of the dragon world would have to bow down like a worm against the might of this powerful binding dragon whip. The redness of Long Zon's eyes was gradually dissipating. It was evident that he had already expelled a large amount of Bigra from his body. Lin Fan was all ready to cuss at his mother right now. How dare this despicable B***** use such means to lock down yours truly? If only yours truly were that bit stronger, he would definitely be able to rip this binding dragon whip to shreds. The more Lin Fan struggled, the tighter the binding dragon whip coiled around him. It was like the incantation of the golden hoop, tightening against Lin Fan mercilessly. Heaven and earth consciousness. Long Zon hollered out suddenly, creating a 1,000-feet-long golden dragon that glowed with a golden shine. Devouring the saint spirit energy of the heaven and earth, the golden dragon coiled itself around that half-man half-dragon figure of Long Zon. Long Zon was using up all his powers to expel out that unspeakable and strange energy. At the same time, he was astonished by it. Just what sort of an object was it that could create such a devastating impact? He was a desolate celestial upper-level being. He was only 2 states away from being a divine celestial, a state where he'd be practically invincible, and could do everything, including taking down the skies and moon themselves. To think that this mysterious force would require him to expend all his powers just to resist it. That was incredible. Good. Very good. Suddenly, Long Zon burst out laughing. His words made no sense at all. Holy sh**t. By the looks of it, this guy is almost completely done with expelling the effects of Bigra. If I'm not done by then, things would be really tragic. Why the hell was yours truly always bumping into sick freaks like these? If only Bigra's effects were that bit stronger, yours truly wouldn't be in this terrible state right now. Forget it. Lin Fan had a plan in mind. With the way things were turning out, seemed like he could only rely on that move now. Haha. Suddenly, Lin Fan howled out into the skies and laughed. Lad, what are you laughing at? Looking at Lin Fan, who was apprehended in his grasp, Long Zhan was bewildered. At the same time, his curiosity towards Lin Fan was only deepening by the second. What am I laughing at? Naturally, I'm laughing at you, duh. A traitor like you who would sell his life to the ancient race is nothing but a humiliation to the thousands of races out here. And you would dare to ask me what I'm laughing at? Lin Fan glared at Long Zhan straight in the eye. No matter what, this was going to be his last-ditch effort. He had to leave down a legend at the very least. Long Zhan was neither angered nor happy. He did not put Lin Fan's words to his heart at all. After all, he knew that these were truths to Lin Fan. But at the end of the day, who could truly understand the circumstances of Long Zhan? Death isn't something that is scary. The scariest thing is to lead a life that is worse than death itself. To think that a desolate celestial such as yourself would bow down under the might of the ancient race and live life as a coward. You're truly disgusting. You wanna take yours truly back? How could yours truly accede to that request? Let yours truly show you the true might of the human race today. Lin Fan hollered out as a massive amount of energy burst out from his body. This energy was wild and unrestrained, as though it could take down the entire heavens. What are you doing? Looking at the massive amount of energy being emanated out from the human, Long Zhan's heart jerked for a moment, as he could not help but start to panic. HMPH, even if yours truly is going to die, I'm going to take your binding dragon whip along with me to the graves. Explode. With a mad holler, Lin Fan's body began rupturing. One by one, ripples of energy began to gush out of his entire body. This was every single last bit of hidden power within Lin Fan's body. Stop. Long Zhan's face changed immediately. To think that this human would self-destruct. Haha, are you feeling sad for your binding dragon whip right now? It's too late. Lin Fan looked over at Long Zhan as his hair flew around wildly in the skies. Bomb! A dazzling brilliance exploded out as that electric dragon that was coiling around Lin Fan howled out as well. However, in an instant, it was overwhelmed by that massive surge of energy. Blood sprayed out all over the skies as the entire heavens and earth fell silent. Within the void, there was nothing left of Lin Fan or the binding dragon whip. Why did it turn out like this? Long Zhan was stumped. The blood chi within his body rumbled once more as he clutched at his chest, spurting out a mouthful of blood. Unable to believe the sight before him, Long Zhan's mental focus was shaken as well. With that, the saint spirit energy within his body began to clash with the effects of Bigra, causing that rumbling of his blood once more. Why would he choose to blow himself up? I had already promised him his safety. After Lin Fan's self-detonation, Long Zhan was extremely shaken at this moment. Arg! A long howl rang out through the skies as Long Zhan's eyes were bloodshot. Shifting his body, he turned into a gigantic dragon and broke through the void. With a single swipe, he caused the void to rip apart as he vented out every single bit of frustration in his heart. To think that I would force him to his death. Long Zhan had only wanted to take Lin Fan back with him. To think that this human's reaction would be this extreme. The skies lost all their color as Long Zhan continued to howl out emotionally before leaving eventually. At that moment, a drop of blood on the ground seemed to have gained a life of its own. It waited silently before seeping into the ground and tunneled into the distance. A few thousand miles away from that place. Rebirth through blood. With its own life, this drop of blood vibrated immensely before it started expanding, forming a blood figure. Nirvana's rebirth. This blood figure was none other than Lin Fan, who was reborn through his blood. Chapter 502. Cultivate every single skill. Chapter 502. Cultivate every single skill. To think that the only way for me to escape was to self-destruct. Lin Fan, who had just revived, was feeling especially emotional in his heart right now. This was the first time he had self-detonated. If rebirth through blood had not worked at that instance, he would have been shammed to the depths of hell. That was the gamble that Lin Fan had to take. But by the looks of it, rebirth through blood was working perfectly fine. He couldn't find any parts of him missing. The only thing that was causing him a big headache was the fact that his energy had been thoroughly exhausted. Seemed like the amount of energy required for a single rebirth was pretty immense. If an ancient beast that was even slightly strong were to appear right now, he might very well lose his life to it. Therefore, in consideration for his safety, Lin Fan decided to seek shelter and hide for now first. Without giving it too much thought, Lin Fan tunneled straight into the ground. He then channeled his mythical parasol tree and began to replenish his strength. In the ancient saint world, the mythical parasol tree was like a fish which had just discovered water. It was completely at home here, sprouting ever more lushly and producing an even greater amount of life force. Lin Fan knew that even though he looked strong on the surface, he was actually pretty weak right now. If he met a truly strong opponent, he could probably have enough strength to protect himself from dying. However, there was practically no way he could take down his opponents. But that fact alone caused Lin Fan to feel somewhat displeased. After all, he was a man with a system. How could he be tied down by something such as mere cultivation states? If he couldn't just kill things that were beyond his levels, what was he living his life for? This system is being too weak these days, isn't it? Back when yours truly had stolen my own peaches, this system gave me an actual title. Why the hell am I not given any sort of acknowledgement for doing something as wild as blowing myself up? Lin Fan felt that the system was really being too stingy this time around. To think that he wouldn't get a single reward out of it at all. That feeling of self-detonation wasn't something that any mere person could endure. It hurt as hell, man. In fact, he could feel his entire body ripping apart in that entire instant. However, the good thing was that the pain went as quickly as it came. Ding. Owner's courageous self-destruction is worth commending indeed. Ding. Rewarded with essential legendary gear for skipping levels. Desolate celestial cultivation state mythical usage. Lin Fan was equal parts stunned and surprised. He was completely caught unaware by the system's notifications. It's here. It's really here. Lin Fan was just lamenting about the system moments earlier. To think that the system would decide to reward him just like that. This was goddamn telepathic. The system must have been feeling bad about Lin Fan's complaints and decided to award him with something. Of course, that possibility wasn't entirely impossible. But this was great. Since the reward was free, why not take it? However, the name of the reward was leaving Lin Fan extremely puzzled, not knowing what this thing meant at all. Desolate Celestial Cultivation State Mythical Usage. Desolate Celestial State is just practically a foundation state for one to get to that ultimate state of being a divine celestial. One could begin sowing seeds in preparation for becoming a divine celestial. Lin Fan knew that the moment one attained a desolate celestial state, one could convert every single thing they had learned in their lifetime into seeds of their own. These so-called seeds allowed the skills to improve independently on their own, and boost the levels of their cultivation as well. Taking stealth, for example, once Lin Fan reached the desolate celestial level, he could cultivate stealth into a true skill stealth seed. After he was done cultivating with it, the power of that skill would rise by a significant amount. But of course, the prerequisite for doing that was the skill must first be raised to a certain level. For someone like Lin Fan who could start sowing such seeds as an Azure Celestial right now was totally unheard of. There was never a precedent to such a thing in the entire ancient saint world. Not bad, not bad. Lin Fan let out a gleeful smile. Seemed like he did gain quite a bit out of this eventually. Suddenly, Lin Fan's mind felt clearer than ever. It was as though countless wisdom plates were revolving around his mind, opening up a sea of knowledge to boost all parts of his mental state. This sudden feeling caused Lin Fan to freeze up for a slight moment. All sorts of things he couldn't think through in the past were suddenly clear as day right now. Even if he were a mere mortal, he would definitely be able to master any skill with just a single glance of his eyes. His cultivation state would also grow at light speed. I've struck gold. I've Mother Sea King struck gold this time around. Lin Fan was so excited he did not know what he could do next. He wanted to climb out of the ground and dance in celebration. But soon enough, he knocked back some sense into himself. If he did that, he would undoubtedly just be courting death. If he were down on his luck and bumped into a powerful being or an ancient beast, he would die so bad he wouldn't even know how he died. Lin Fan lied on the ground silently. He had wanted to start cultivating some seeds. However, he found out that the true energy required to cultivate those seeds was way too much for his empty vessel to handle right now. Even if he managed to cultivate them, it would be an issue for him to even employ those skills after that. Twisting heaven and earth. True Origin's crushing kick. Even though all of these looked like simple moves on their own, Lin Fan was the only one who understood the immense amount of energy required to use those moves. For example, even though twisting heaven and earth, or as one could loosely term it, monkey steals peaches, was just a simple grab, the amount of energy required for that grab was astonishing. If not for the fact that Lin Fan had the system, he could never have raised it to this state with just his mere abilities. One day passed. Lin Fan opened his eyes as a huge amount of energy burst out forth. The power in his body had recovered. Based on Lin Fan's current power level, that amount of energy could hardly ever be exhausted. It was like a gigantic river that would never dry up. However, given the fact that his self-destructing act had managed to expend every last drop of that, one could imagine the massive amount of energy required for one to undergo rebirth through blood. Seemed like Lin Fan had to watch out for this point from here on forth as well. It might not be possible for him to rely on this skill just to kill an opponent. However, regarding life preservation, this skill was definitely godly. Right now, Lin Fan did not have the intentions to head out at all. All he wanted to do was to cultivate those seeds. Furthermore, being hidden underground seemed to be an extremely safe option right now. Who knew what type of sticky situations he might end up with once he got out? Let's see. For the first seed, I should probably cultivate eternal immortality. Lin Fan knew that his current strength was far from topping the entire world. He might as well work on his defenses first. Cultivate. Lin Fan churned his eternal immortality. This skill had already been raised to such an exceptional level by him. It was bound to be ready for cultivation. Instantly, Lin Fan felt a burst of energy gushing out in all directions within his body. This energy that was being emanated gathered and turned into a vortex within his body. It's difficult indeed. Lin Fan finally realized how much energy cultivating a single seed required. Just with this initial step of forming a seed, he had already used up 10% of his entire strength. Seemed like nothing in this world was truly as simple as he might have thought. But to Lin Fan, no matter how difficult it would be, he still had to make it a success. After all, turning strong was the only way to ensure that he would never be suppressed by anyone in his path forward. Cultivate. Chapter 503, Poison World's Poison King. Chapter 503, Poison World's Poison King. Suddenly, a cyclone formed within Lin Fan's body. This cyclone was extremely violent, as it reeled in every single last bit of energy from eternal immortality, fusing it all together. Suppress frantically. Feeling the massive amount of energy within his body, Lin Fan's heart could not help but skip a beat. This amount of energy was way too volatile. If it were to explode within his body, that would definitely be a calamity. These so-called true skills were the true powers of the heaven and earth. As long as one could cultivate out true skill seeds, they could use them as tribute to comprehend the Tao of the skills themselves. But, that could only be done after they had attained a divine celestial state. However, this was a long road ahead for Lin Fan. The pressing issue at hand was to hurry up and cultivate these true skill seeds first. Boom! Just as the energy from eternal immortality was being cultivated to a certain state, it suddenly erupted, as though the entire world was being split apart. A massive, titanic figure suddenly appeared within Lin Fan's body. Immortality, indestructibility. This giant repeatedly howled as he emanated a supremely peerless aura and shrunk rapidly at the same time. The more he shrunk, the more concentrated the essence got. Eventually, a single golden seed laid floating peacefully within Lin Fan's body. This was the true skill seed of eternal immortality. Containing everything about the skill within this seed, it all would only get stronger and tougher from here on forth. Ding! Eternal immortality leveled up. Level 17. Ding! Physical body state. Azure Celestial lower level state. Upon hearing the notifications of the system, Lin Fan's heart leapt with joy. To think that it would be so easy. Day and night exchanged places as the process continued for 2 entire days and nights. The true energy within his body was once again completely depleted. Seemed like it wasn't going to be a fast process cultivating the entire true skill seed. Lin Fan could sense the horrifying powers that were hidden within that golden-colored seed. It was way more fearsome than before. With a single thought, the indestructible aura of eternal immortality flowed through Lin Fan's entire body. The sensation was so pleasurable that he almost moaned out from it. Lin Fan was popping in pills currently to replenish the lost energy within his body. Since this was a really safe place to be in, he might as well make use of the opportunity to convert all of his skills into true skill seeds. The most important task for Lin Fan right now was to raise his power level. It was the worst type of situation he could be in where he couldn't kill anything beyond his cultivation state. Back in the Xuanwang world, the difference between a full cultivation was pretty big due to the heaven's will. However, Lin Fan could still kill monsters and things beyond his level. However, the heaven's will of the ancient saint world was extremely overbearing. Every single leap in cultivation state was like a difference between heaven and earth. There was no way to bridge that gap at all. But Lin Fan possessed a system. As long as his system would back him up, none of these would be an issue to him. He couldn't help but acknowledge that this was still an improvement for him to perform a task meant only for desolate celestials as an Azure Celestial right now. Cultivate. Twisting heaven and earth was a skill that defied the heavens itself. At the same time, this was Lin Fan's favorite skill. After all, switching yin and yang was a flip of his hand with this. Even though the switch might be pretty disastrous to the harmonic balance of the world, Lin Fan firmly believed that this skill would definitely produce a mythical usage if he would persevere and train it up to the end. No vel b in .c ohm. Brr. Lin Fan's body shivered uncontrollably as the true skill seed of twisting heaven and earth began to gather continuously. Black and white chi were revolving around him, representing the powers of yin and yang. This black and white dual-colored seed floated silently beside the seed of eternal immortality. Days passed by swiftly. Beneath the ground, Lin Fan was working tirelessly to turn all of his skills into true skill seeds. He swore that he wouldn't stop until he was done. Blood Sea was turned into a blood-red seed as well. The amount of blood chi that was rumbling inside was boundless like the vast skies. If it were released, it could probably flood and take down all the living beings around him. In reality, Blood Sea was supposed to be a dark and sinister skill. However, Lin Fan had never tried using it to suppress any enemies so far. That was because Blood Sea had a far more heaven-defying effect when it was used for the physical body state. Especially now that he had reached level 9, rebirth through blood, the usage was beyond godly. Now that he turned it into a true skill seed, Lin Fan was certain that the powers of Blood Sea had definitely risen to yet another level. True Origin's crushing kick, Black Tiger Steel's heart, Rock's breath, Nirvana finger, firmament, etc. At the start, all of these skills were far from mainstream techniques. However, under the fruitful cultivation of Lin Fan, all of them had turned into skills that could devastate even the heaven itself. In fact, most of their peculiarities could only be employed by Lin Fan himself. Even if anyone wished to emulate them, they could definitely not do so. One day, Lin Fan opened his eyes and emerged from the underground. The moment his eyes opened, it was as though yet another true god had descended upon this world. Lin Fan's aura was really haywire and messed up right now as he retracted it all back into his body, returning to the state of a normal being. At this point, Lin Fan finally understood why he could never take down a desolate celestial powerful being. That was because they had all their powers concentrated within these true skill seeds. Even though he was only an Azure Celestial lower level right now, Lin Fan had the confidence of taking down any Azure Celestial upper level being with ease. Perhaps, he could even reign over any cultivation state below Desolate Celestial right now. Hee. Suddenly, a sinister snigger rang out from the skies above. Lin Fan, who was doused with excitement, frowned. To think that he would be noticed by someone the moment he came out. Raising his head, he caught sight of an extremely hideous-looking man floating gently in the sky. There was a greenish mist that was clouding the man's entire body from head to toe. This mist was extremely putrid, as though it possessed every single vilest thing in the world. Just a single look was enough to have Lin Fan's face cringe up. This man was simply way too ugly. However, this man was far from weak. He was an Azure Celestial upper-level being. The aura that was being emanated from him was especially nefarious, and reeked of ill intent. Evidently, sometimes the difference between a good and bad person could indeed be told from just their facial features alone. Not only was this man devastatingly ugly, his sinister tone had Lin Fan certain that he was definitely not a good person. "Who are you?" Lin Fan asked warily, not knowing the background of this person. Hee. Seems like my luck is pretty decent today. I'll capture you in order to create my infinite poison puppet. The Poison King glared at Lin Fan as his lips curled into a smirk. Without a second word, he darted out at Lin Fan immediately with a claw grab. The putrid mist was overflowing within that single claw-like grab, with many poisonous bugs howling out wickedly within. If Lin Fan had been more accustomed to the ancient saint world, he would know that this man was someone who had ascended from the poison world. Within the poison world, there were all sorts of evildoers. All of those ascended beings were fugitives and serial killers. They would massacre any of the thousands of races they met with. The same went for the ancient race beings they met with. As long as anything could increase their personal strength, they would definitely do it. Just like now, the Poison King was flying around in the sky when he caught sight of Lin Fan. Thinking that he still lacked a single infinite poison puppet, he struck at Lin Fan without any hesitation. Holy FCK, to think that this guy would strike out over a few mere words. Does he take yours truly for a pushover? Alright, since he wants to die, then I'll let him have a taste of the power of yours truly's true skill seeds. Lin Fan thought with a mild anger. To think that this guy would strike for no reason at all. No one should take yours truly as a pushover. Chapter 504, check out yours truly's poison. Chapter 504, check out yours truly's poison. You've got some capabilities The Poison King had not expected this fella to be able to dodge his claw-like grab. That intrigued him. However, He chuckled out almost immediately afterward, emanating a powerful aura with it. Following that, a dense putrid mist spread widely behind him. This mist covered the entire sky. It was so vile that even the heavens seemed to be corroded by it, turning black against it. Lad, the Poison King's triple supreme poison mist can devour the entire heaven and earth. I can be considered a desolate celestial powerful being in that sense. As long as you touch a single bit of it, your entire body shall corrode and die. Let's see what you can do about that. The Poison King burst out laughing. This triple supreme poison mist was made up of the heaven poison, earth poison, and human poison. Combining these three strongest poisons of the world, it was a terrifying existence. Lin Fan frowned. Now that he had cultivated the true skill seeds, his speed was extremely fast. With a slight movement, he retreated away from the affected area. Before he was sure of the effects of this triple supreme poison mist, Lin Fan did not want to rush in blindly. He was pretty startled by the fact that even the void was turning black from the corrosive effects of this mist. To think that it could be this strong. Nirvana finger. The true skill seed within Lin Fan's body began to churn continuously. With a single finger point, the void shattered. That rapidly approaching triple supreme poison mist was dispersed away due to the Nirvana finger. However, to Lin Fan's surprise, the poison mist gathered itself back together once more after it was gusted away. Haha, give it up, lad. Even though your skills are pretty decent, they are useless. Perhaps you may think that my triple supreme poison mist may not be able to reach you now. That's right. However, the poison mist is infecting the sky at the same time. Even if you don't touch it personally, you will still receive the effects sooner or later. Spreading out his palms, the Poison King slapped out into the sky. Every single slap seemed to possess a boundless amount of power, as it churned and moved the poison mist. And indeed, just like the Poison King had said, each place where the poison mist passed by would have a dark green trail, which would be absorbed by the void. Gradually, the entire sky began to turn dark green on its own. Many nerve-like fibers started to appear in the sky and filled the void densely, as though they were about to consume and devour the entire heavens. You poisonous little sh*t. Yours truly didn't do anything to you, so why the hell are you bothering me? Do you think I'm a pushover? Lin Fan was furious towards this guy who had struck out at him without provocation. Overbearing. How could he be even more overbearing than yours truly? At least, before yours truly struck out, he would always let the other party know what they had done wrong. But the fact that this guy would just strike out at yours truly without a single word, wasn't he just looking down on yours truly? Survival of the fittest. Only the strong shall survive. I don't need a reason to kill you. You should just resign to fate and be my infinite poison puppet obediently. Who knows, maybe, if I were to become an utmost being of this world one day, I might return you your freedom. A sinister glint shone past the eyes of the Poison King. Swinging his arms, he sent out yet another flurry of palm strikes. With that, the triple supreme poison mist jerked for a little before turning even more ferocious. How dare you act so brazenly? Yours truly shall let you understand that being impertinent is a crime. Lin Fan hollered out, sucking in his tummy. His true skill seed began to rotate, as an illusory figure of a rock appeared behind him suddenly. Rock's breath. Lin Fan opened his mouth as though he was devouring the entire heaven and earth. The illusory figure behind him did the same, as a powerful suction force was exerted out. The rock was one of the largest living creatures in the entire world, and could encompass everything. Legends had it that the utmost cultivated rock could suck up the entire Pacific Ocean dry with a single opening of its mouth. Within the void, that wildly rampaging triple supreme poison mist was swooping in towards Lin Fan without any restraint at all. Haha, courting death. This poison mist of mine isn't something you can swallow just like that. The Poison King reared his head into the skies and burst out into laughter at the sight of how this man had dared to try swallowing his triple supreme poison mist. This wasn't the first time he had met with such death-seeking behavior. However, he was long used to these overly confident people. Rock's breath was a skill of the rock sect. Ever since Lin Fan had obtained it, he had been working hard on cultivating it. Part of the reason why the mythical parasol tree could take in the saint spirit chi of this world so quickly was also due to the rock's breath skill. All suck. Lin Fan's tummy was like a bottomless pit right now, taking in the triple supreme poison mist continuously. Even a single speck of the poison mist that was covering the skies could render an utmost celestial being dead instantly. In fact, even a desolate celestial being might even lose their lives if they weren't steady enough against this poison mist. Haha, courting death indeed. Since you want to seek out death, let me fulfill your wishes. The Poison King could not stop laughing at how Lin Fan was sucking in the poison mist endlessly. Flicking his robes, he slapped out with both palms, causing a massive amount of poison mist to be shot out of his palms. Alright then, I'll turn you into my infinite poison puppet, so that you can be a vessel for all my poison mists for the rest of eternity. The Poison King had planned for this in advance. This was because he had the utmost confidence in his poison capabilities being unparalleled, and that no one in this world would be able to break them. Infinite poison refinement technique, the Poison King hollered out. Suddenly, countless poisonous bugs swarmed out of that hideous body of his. Each of these bugs looked vile and nefarious, containing a horrifying amount of poison in them. Closing his palms together into a seal, he sent out seals after seals towards Lin Fan, each of them emitting poisonous chi of their own. And of course, all of these were sucked in by Lin Fan into his tummy as well. As time passed by the minutes and seconds, the Poison King's face started changing. How can this be? He stopped his hand seals with a face of utter disbelief. Just what in the world was going on with this guy? How could nothing be happening to him after he had taken in such a large amount of triple supreme poison mist? At the same time, he had even added in the infinite poison refinement technique. This guy's body should be changing right now with all the poisonous bugs that must be swarming within his body at. He should have turned into a poison puppet. Just who in the world are you? The Poison King's face turned stern as he yelled out. Haha, you're asking me who I am? Back when yours truly asked you the same question, you ignored me entirely. And now you want me to reply you? Dream on. By the way, your poison mist seems pretty decent. Lin Fan burst out laughing. Upon entering his body, the triple supreme poison mist was taken in by the heaven and earth smelt and was smelted instantly. Within the heaven and earth smelt, the triple supreme poison mist began to shrink continuously until it became a dark green seed. Ding! Congratulations on smelting. Ding! Congratulations on obtaining true skill triple supreme poison mist seed. Lin Fan had not expected it to smelt into a seed. Well, since you're so good at utilizing poison, how about you have a taste of yours truly's poison? Lin Fan looked at the Poison King before he spat out a poison dragon. Looking at this, the Poison King's face changed immediately. How could this? How do you possess my triple supreme poison mist? Looking at this poison dragon he spat out, Lin Fan was overwhelmed with joy. However, he noticed that the shine of the seed within him had dimmed a little. This skill evidently took up a lot of energy. Lin Fan did not know how to create the triple supreme poison mist by himself. Therefore, the poison dragon that he spat out was also the mist that was created by the Poison King himself. Each time he used it, the total capacity would decrease by a little bit. Once Lin Fan used up all of the triple supreme poison mist, the seed would shatter immediately. As though he had just seen a ghost, the face of the Poison King turned extremely frightful. Oh, that's not enough for you. Let yours truly give you one more then. Lin Fan opened his mouth and spat out yet another poison dragon. With that, the true skill seed within his body disintegrated. Seeing this, the Poison King screamed at the top of his lungs. Chapter 505. Has yours truly grown handsomer recently? Chapter 505. Has yours truly grown handsomer recently? The Poison King could not believe the scene right before him. Not only had this man devoured his entire triple supreme poison mist whole, he was spitting it out right back at him. This was an utter humiliation for the Poison King. He had always considered himself as the king of employing poison. Not only was this man trying to use poison in front of him, this person was using the Poison King's very own poison. The shame of it all. Looking at the two poison dragons coiling around the Poison King, Lin Fan's heart was overwhelmed with joy. Small fry, how dare you act so impertinently before me? These two poison dragons shall be my welcome gift to you. Lin Fan laughed brightly. He was practically just gloating at the plight of the Poison King right now. However, he could not help but acknowledge the strength of the triple supreme poison mist. To think that it could even rumble and toss around a couple of times back when it was in the heaven and earth smelt. Even though it was smelted eventually, one could not deny the capabilities of this poison mist. The Poison King was slapping out furiously right now. Every single slap brought with it the power like crackling lightning, as the void tore apart continuously. Good lad, seems like I've underestimated you today. It's time for me to let you experience the most horrifying poison I have in my arsenal then. The Poison King yelled out. At the same time, his ugly face only got even more hideous. Poison world, the Poison King hollered into the sky. Those long locks of his which were filled with poison danced in the air, as his robes began to rise gradually as well. An immense amount of energy surged through the heaven and earth, and burst forth from the Poison King. Within the void, all sorts of poisonous beings and bugs were striding densely. Some of them spouted out fiery flames, while others spouted out poisonous fumes. Some of them were even devouring the void the moment they opened their mouths. Those 2 poison dragons were consumed by these poisonous bugs in an instant. Lad, this is the poison world that your majesty here has created after tireless hard work. Today, I shall let you know the true meaning of horror. The Poison King howled out. Raising both his palms, the poisonous bugs within the poison world rumbled around furiously. HMPH, how dare you get so brazen as a mere azure celestial upper-level being? Yours truly was only toying with you earlier on. Since that's the case, yours truly shall let you experience the meaning of true pain in this world. Lin Fan laughed icily as the true skill seed within his body began to rumble. Twisting heaven and earth. The moment Lin Fan opened his mouth, the true skill seed within his body began churning as a tremendous amount of energy burst out from within. The void trembled slightly as Lin Fan stretched out his hand. Instantly, countless number of hands appeared from the heaven and earth, and reached out towards the Poison King. HMPH, lad. Do you think that you can take me down with that sort of strength? Are you dreaming? With just my poison guard, I can definitely take on your move. Looking at these swarming hands, the Poison King wasn't afraid in the least bit. Immediately afterward, a burst of dark green light shot out from above his body. As though this light was indestructible, it caged the Poison King within. Even though this skill might look like it was really formidable on the outside, the Poison King couldn't sense much of an aura from it. Therefore, he couldn't care less about it. Let it grab wherever it wants then. What can it possibly do? Bam! As those swarming hands landed on the Poison King's poison guard, they gave off a series of crisp sounds. At the same time, they sizzled after being corroded off by the poison guard. Lad, don't waste your strength. You're not my match with just those capabilities. Stay there and turn into food for my poison world obediently. The Poison King howled out. His body jerked for a moment as his eyes focused. With that, he struck out with a palm strike towards Lin Fan. However, just then, a sharp and clear squishing sound could be heard. The Poison King's face changed immediately. He could not believe that his poison guard would have been destroyed at this moment. Ah! An extreme tragic wail was ejected out of the mouth of the Poison King. This wail was extremely sorrowful, as though he had just gone through the worst torture in this entire world. Impossible. The Poison King glared at Lin Fan in absolute disbelief. What did this guy do to break his poison guard? And even if his poison guard was broken, why was he enduring such a cruel pain? Looking at the sight of the Poison King, Lin Fan chuckled. Ever since Twisting Heaven and Earth had been cultivated into a true skill seed, its power levels were far from before. In the past, Lin Fan might have required his physical body if he wanted to strike at someone, grab after grab. However, now that it was cultivated into a true skill seed, he could penetrate through the void and strike out from the netherworld. In actual fact, Lin Fan was toying around with the Poison King by adding in all sorts of normal attacks when he deployed Twisting Heaven and Earth. Otherwise, how could this Twisting Heaven and Earth with a buff of breaking through all defenses be blocked out by a mere poison guard as such? Poison King, this is the true gap in our skills. This is the consequences of just striking out at me for no reason at all. Lin Fan stepped forth and pointed out with his finger. November LBJNN. The true skill seed within Lin Fan's body began to turn and channel once more as the void before him began to break down layer by layer like mirror panes. The Poison King wanted to fight back at Lin Fan with all his strength. However, to his horror, the pain that was on his crotch was so numbing that he was almost going frenzied mentally. He tried channeling his true energy to suppress the pain. However, no matter how hard he tried, the pain which was bent on destroying everything just shot itself right up into his head. Just what sort of a skill is this? How did this happen? The Poison King howled out in indignance. However, it was all too late right now. He did not know that Lin Fan had already cultivated true skill seeds. Every move that he deployed was a skill that the gods would bow down to. Even if he were an Azure Celestial upper level, there was definitely nothing he could do about this. If the Poison King had tried to run away at the beginning, he might have stood a chance. However, nothing would work at all right now. And no, you can't kill me. I'm someone from the poison world. As long as you don't kill me, I'll let you in on a big secret. In fact, I can't even be your slave. Please, the Poison King begged. Nothing was more important to him than his life right now. Back in the poison world, he had once suffered deep humiliation. Climbing up to the peak one step at a time, he finally gained the strength to ascend into the ancient saint world. Upon reaching here, he was actually struggling really hard and cultivated for a long time before he got to where he was right now. How could he bear losing all of it just like this? HMPH, you're dead meat for sure. Yours truly has never needed any slaves, nor do I need to know any secrets of yours. Lin Fan did not have the mood to chatter on with someone like the Poison King. He was only an Azure Celestial lower level being right now, while the Poison King was at an Azure Celestial upper level. If he killed this guy, he could definitely get a huge chunk of experience points. Now that would definitely make him happy. Go to hell, firmament. With the swing of his axe, the entire heaven and earth froze up, as though the world was about to be split into two. The energy currents of the void flowed out with massive force. No, looking at the sight before him, the Poison King wailed at the top of his lungs. However, in the blink of an eye, there was just silence after the flash of the axe. Ding! Congratulations on killing Azure Celestial upper level Poison King. Ding! Experience points plus 30,000. Ding! Congratulations! Poison Sutra has popped out. Ding! Congratulations! Ancient Saint World Secret Records has popped out. Lin Fan had initially wanted to leave right after killing the Poison King. To think that two things would drop off him. This was pretty surprising for Lin Fan. Lin Fan knew that he could obtain experience points and items from killing monsters and beasts. But most of the time, he got nothing out of it. So, he hardly paid any attention. To think that he could obtain 2 items from taking down the Poison King. Incredible. Could it be that the appearance of items depended on one's looks? Could it be that yours truly had turned handsomer recently? Could it be that yours truly's impeccable character and moral standards had risen even more these days? That must be it. Chapter 506. Turning Bigra into a skill. Chapter 506. Turning Bigra into a skill. Just what in the world is this Poison Sutra and Ancient Saint World Secret Records? But, since this Poison King is such a weak sh*t, this Poison Sutra shouldn't be anything spectacular either. Lin Fan looked at the 2 booklets which emitted a ghastly glow, and did not bear too much of a hope towards them. Ding! Do you want to learn Poison Sutra? Learn. Suddenly, all sorts of information surged into Lin Fan's mind. All that information transformed into poisonous bugs that he had never ever known about. Some of them were as small as dust particles, while there were some as gigantic as mountains. All sorts of poisons, poisonous creatures, poisonous pills and skills. Every single thing surged into Lin Fan's mind. He was bewildered. This Poison Sutra was an unparalleled encyclopedia of poison. It possessed information about all sorts of poisons in this world. But what Lin Fan did not know was that the fact that the Poison King could have climbed to the peak of the poison world as a bullied weakling was all thanks to this Poison Sutra. There was a mental skill that was hidden within this Poison Sutra, one which could allow one to concoct any sort of poisonous creatures and items into skills. At first, Lin Fan could not be bothered with this Poison Sutra at all. After all, that Poison King fella had turned himself so hideously ugly all because he was cultivating such a sick skill. However, the moment Lin Fan's mind crossed Bigra, he suddenly realized that the mental skill could be of some use. As for all the other poisonous toxins that were annotated within the Poison Sutra, Lin Fan decided that he wouldn't cultivate them at all. After all, if one wanted to cultivate the Poison Sutra, they would have to be bitten by all sorts of poisonous bugs in order to suck in their poison within one's very own body. They could only then start to cultivate and temper these poisons using their mental arts. No matter what, over time, this process would definitely accumulate a large amount of poisonous substances within one's body. That ugly and hideous face of the Poison King must have been a side effect of taking in way too much poison from these bugs. This is a really dark skill right here. However, the accompanying mental skill does seem pretty decent. Looks pretty promising. Lin Fan started to analyze the mental skill carefully. If Lin Fan were to turn his Bigras into a skill and could send out an entire burst of Bigras with just the slap of his palm, who in the world could be his opponent by then? The very thought of it was pretty horrifying on its own. However, based on the description of the skills, it seemed as though he would have to pop in quite a number of Bigras himself first. Wouldn't he be dead if the effects of Bigra got so overwhelming that he couldn't even cultivate properly? This was a really serious question that he had to ponder over carefully. Lin Fan then picked up the Ancient Saint World Secret Records and took a good look at it. This was a pretty good item that contained all sorts of details about the Ancient Saint World, opening up a brand new perspective for Lin Fan. All sorts of information about sects, secret grounds, ancient race, ancient beasts, and the thousands of races were included within this. Reading 10 rows with a single glance, Lin Fan memorized everything within his mind. Upon memorizing everything, Lin Fan realized that things were definitely not as simple as he had thought them to be in the ancient saint world. Huff. Lin Fan heaved out a deep breath as he finally understood in his heart. He had thoroughly been a complete noob in the ancient saint world, knowing practically nothing at all. After reading the entire ancient saint world secret records, Lin Fan had evolved from a noob into a veteran of the ancient saint world. Finally, he could start to understand the various things he would end up encountering in the future from now on. Lin Fan started channeling his earth spirit river into the ground. With a single wave of his hand, a razor-sharp current rippled out from within, bringing out a vortex of mud into the sky. This left a gigantic hole in the ground. The mental skill that was found within the Poison Sutra was something Lin Fan felt that he really wanted to give a shot at no matter what. Something that could turn Bigra into an entire skill. He definitely had to try making it work. With the sweep of his hand, a large amount of Bigras accumulated within the pit. Lin Fan took in a deep breath. He could not help but start to get nervous. Once he exploded all of these Bigras, he would then absorb them into his body and begin to temper with them. Lin Fan had already thought of how things would be if this did not work out. That would be an extremely terrifying sight. One Bigra was more than enough to cause one to lose the very concept of sanity. If he were to absorb this amount of Bigras within him and ended up failing, he would really be doomed. He might very well end up piercing through the entire ancient saint world altogether. Therefore, Lin Fan was taking a huge risk, betting on the success of this tempering and refining process. However, fortune favored the bold. Who knew what would happen if he didn't even give it a shot? Furthermore, everything that was introduced within the Poison Sutra had supposedly worked thus far. That should have been enough of comfort for Lin Fan's mind. However, the main point was still that Bigra was simply way too strong. Highs, FCK it. If this Poison Sutra is lying, then this world would truly have no love within it any longer. Lin Fan told himself. Explode. The countless Bigras burst into a thick mist, covering the entire pit. Absorb. Lin Fan opened his mouth and took in all the mist into his body. Instantly, his eyes turned redder than ever. In that instance, Lin Fan did not even dare to hesitate and started churning the skill annotated within the Poison Sutra immediately. Immediately, that violent, thick mist of Bigra was covered up by a mysterious force and began to shrink within his body. Nevertheless, the nature of Bigra was still extremely violent and volatile. While it was being suppressed by that mysterious force, it was still struggling, as though it truly wanted to break free. However, how could Lin Fan allow that? If he did, true tragedy would definitely ensue. Lin Fan started pushing with every single thing he had, together with the mysterious force of the Poison Sutra's mental skill, repressing the effects of Bigra so badly that it could barely move at all. The days and nights exchanged place for quite a few times. Ding! Congratulations on cultivation success. Suddenly, Lin Fan opened his eyes. His eyes were shimmering as he looked at that seed that floated gently within his body. Lin Fan knew that he had successfully cultivated Bigra into a true skill seed. From this day forth, Bigra had evolved. It was going to walk on the path of prestige from this day forth. Ha 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 ha. Suddenly, Lin Fan burst out laughing maniacally. This was a feeling that was even greater than finding any treasure in the world. Waving his hand, a white mist shot out. As though it had a consciousness of their own, it shrouded Lin Fan's body. He then opened his mouth and swallowed the entire mist back in. Bigra has finally been turned into a skill by yours truly. From now on, a single wave of my hands shall cover the entire world in Bigra. Who else in the world could be a match for yours truly from now forth? Lin Fan was extremely excited right now. At the same time, his thoughts strayed back towards his glorious times back then. So what if someone's cultivation state was higher than his? Could they look down on Bigra just because of that? However, as for the other godly pill of his right now, he decided to forsake the idea of cultivating that. Whoever chose to cultivate that must be a dumb *CK. From here on, yours truly was headed to be the greatest character in this entire world. How could he be tainted with such unsightly stuff? Boom! Lin Fan burst out from underground with utmost confidence. He then looked over into the distance. From now on, all the ancient race beings in the ancient saint world would have to bow down under the might of yours truly. What the hell is going on up ahead? Why are there so many rich and powerful auras gathered up ahead? Before Lin Fan's excitement had not even withered when he was distracted by something in the distance. There was a group of people gathered, their auras bursting through the sky infectiously. Where the hell did these guys come from? Aren't they afraid of being noticed by the ancient race at all? Lin Fan was bewildered. However, in light of safety, he had better stay hidden first before slowly inching forward. Chapter 507, Infinite Slaughter Ancient Realm. Chapter 507, Infinite Slaughter Ancient Realm. Huh, how can this be? Lin Fan could not believe his very eyes. Within that group of people ahead were even some ancient race tribesmen. In fact, these ancient race tribesmen were conversing with the beings of the other races as though they were really familiar with one another. Just what in the world is going on right here? Lin Fan was taken aback. Even within the Poison King's ancient saint world secret records, nothing like this was mentioned. At the edge of the heaven and earth stood a gigantic door. There were some mysterious runic symbols inscribed on that door, as they gleamed with a vicissitude and an ancient glow. As to what was lying behind that gigantic door, no one knew. Furthermore, why were these ancient race tribesmen communicating with those other race beings so harmoniously? Lin Fan was completely bewildered right now. He could not understand just what was going on. Seeing something like this, he felt that he would feel really miserable within his heart if he didn't clarify with them what was going on right now. To think that yours truly had fought like crazy with those ancient race tribesmen, yet these people here were all friendly and chummy with them. Lin Fan kept his aura within him. Fusing with the Earth Spirit River, he tunneled into the ground and headed forth. Under the hidden state of the Earth Spirit River, these people could definitely not sniff him out no matter how high their cultivation states were. Just like that, Lin Fan remained hidden as he eavesdropped on their conversation. At the same time, he finally understood what the situation was all about. Amongst the thousands of races out there who had ascended into the ancient saint world, some of them did not have any concerns towards all the races out there. All they wanted to do was attain their utmost divine cultivation state. In fact, even if all the thousands of races out there were annihilated, their beliefs wouldn't waver in the slightest bit. As such, the ancient race had an agreement with these beings of the thousands of races out there. The ancient race would permit them entry into these secret grounds in search of greater opportunities. However, these people had to offer members of the thousands of races out there as tribute in return. Mu Tian, this is the Infinite Slaughter Ancient Realm. There are tons of opportunities awaiting you within. An ancient race tribesman with a massive aura stood sturdily before the mysterious door. Mu Tian was donning grey robes, and carried with him a strong stench of a death aura. It was as though there were tons of vengeful spirits howling and struggling within that death aura. Good, very good, don't worry, I've already adhered to your request. Please take a look. Opening his mouth, a graveyard flew out from within his mouth. This graveyard was eerily creepy, with many tombstones planted within it. With a flick of his robes, all of these tombstones vibrated massively as figures rose from them one by one. All of these figures were beings of the thousands of races out there. Nothing more, nothing less. I've got exactly 100 here. Mu Tian replied. Lin Fan took a look at these beings from the thousands of races. There were people from many different races. In fact, all of their cultivation states were above Earth Celestial. Lin Fan did not know what the outcome of all these beings would be, neither did he know why they were being captured here. However, his heart jerked at the next moment as his eyes opened wide in disbelief. Looking at these beings of the thousands of races out there, the ancient race tribesmen held before leaping in for the massacre. Some of them were devoured whole, while others were ripped into two. Blood danced around the skies as though it was raining. Hidden beneath the ground, Lin Fan was absolutely dumbfounded right now, as the stench of blood seeped down into the earth. His nose was choking with the dense stench of blood right now. How could this be? Lin Fan was truly horrified by the scene before him. To think that there would be so many people being massacred by the ancient race tribesmen without even knowing why they died. Following this came the blessings of the heavens will of the ancient saint world, as light rained on these ancient race tribesmen. Revealing a look of relish, all of their power levels increased together with the blessings. Not bad, all of these people were pretty high up on the fugitive list. The ancient race tribesmen nodded their heads in satisfaction. They then looked over at the others. What about you guys? The masses behind Mu Tian released the beings of the thousands of races out there they had captured as well. And the outcome awaiting these people were the very same as their predecessors, being slaughtered cruelly without a single room of resistance. Even though you guys haven't sided with us from the ancient race, you're far more useful than those trashes who have. Don't worry, this will be a fair competition this time around. May the opportunities we encounter receive the blessings of our own fates. The ancient race tribesmen had enjoyed the massacre earlier on. Especially the fact that they had received the blessings of the heavens will, which allowed them to boost their cultivation states. But rules are still rules nevertheless. Once we enter, life and death are all fair game. Let's just hope that you guys don't get killed off by me. Mu Tian replied grimly. The ancient race had control over every single secret ground that was currently known in the ancient saint world. Anyone who wanted to enter would have to obtain approval from the ancient race. However, once they were inside, everything was fair game. Haha. On hearing these words, the ancient race tribesmen burst out laughing as well and did not take it to heart. Lin Fan was burning with fury within his heart right now. To think that he would encounter something so be*starredly cruel. All of those beings of the thousands of races out there were killed mercilessly by these ancient race tribesmen without any room for resistance. Even though Lin Fan could not claim that he was as saintly as Mother Teresa, he still couldn't endure the fact that these beings of the thousands of races out there were being sold out by their very own comrades. Boom! The infinite slaughter ancient realm has been initiated. Suddenly, a beam of light burst out from that mysterious door. That gigantic stone door slammed wide open as Mu Tian and the other ancient race tribesmen entered it one by one. Without hesitation, Lin Fan tunneled in beneath the ground as well. Be it for the sake of leveling or anything, Lin Fan only had a single goal in his mind right now: kill every last one of these goddamn shish tea bags. The more things he encountered, the more Lin Fan understood the words of the heavenly Emperor Yuan and the others back in the Xuanwang world. The ancient saint world was indeed a damned hell. This was a dog-eat-dog world, a place every single bit as horrifying as what hell would be like. Upon crossing the door, Lin Fan's mental state shook for a moment before he recovered from it. A massive whirlwind of a killing aura coiled over. Looking around at his surroundings, Lin Fan's heart skipped a beat. This place was dark and grim, filled with corpses all over the place. Infinite slaughter ancient realm, Lin Fan finally understood. Based on the Poison King's ancient saint world secret records, this infinite slaughter ancient realm was a secret ground. Legends had it that this was the battlefield where the ancient race engaged in a massive onslaught against the thousands of races out there. At the end of it, some powerful beings exchanged blows and broke through the void, opening a brand new dimension. As such, this place became a secret ground. Since tons of powerful beings had perished here, all of their treasures and belongings were lost here within the infinite slaughter ancient realm as well. Get stronger. This was the only thought in Lin Fan's mind right now. He had to use the shortest amount of time to become the strongest person there could be. If one imagined the ancient saint world as a spherical world, then this world would be divided into 8 even portions. These were the 8 districts that were controlled by 8 utmost beings of the ancient race. As for these utmost beings, they were gathered at the center of this world, controlling the entire ancient saint world from the core. November LBJNN. High and above, no one could topple them down at all. One could only wonder what sort of methods Heavenly Emperor Yuan and the others had used to lure out the Ancient One. However, Lin Fan was still hopeful towards the future. He would wait till he got much stronger one day. By then, the Ancient One should have regained his strength in the Xuanwang world as well. He would then try to find a way to bring the Ancient One back into this world, after which, Lin Fan would then head straight to duke it out with those 8 utmost beings. This was a plan Lin Fan had already thought up thoroughly. Chapter 508. What is that palm strike? Chapter 508. What is that palm strike? Where are those ants? To think that they could have disappeared in the blink of an eye. A group of ancient race tribesmen were floating in the skies at this instant. They tried sensing around the surroundings. However, they couldn't find any traces at all. Doesn't matter. In this infinite slaughter ancient realm, only we, the ancient race, shall head out alive. Look at those pathetic worms. To think that they would betray their fellow thousands of races just to seek entry into the secret grounds. But no matter what, the only outcome awaiting them would be getting killed by us ancient race. Haha, the powerful ancient race tribesmen laughed loudly. All of these guys think that they're smart by hiding their cultivation states. And, they really think we wouldn't do the same as well. They truly think that they can exit this place after coming in. But, little do they know that they're nothing but fishes in our net. We'll let them seek out the opportunities first before killing them and stealing over the opportunities for ourselves. What an easy gain that would be. They continued. The infinite slaughter ancient realm wasn't some really exquisite secret ground. Most of the opportunities here had been uncovered by the ancient race. At least, that was what could be seen on the surface and deep within. As for whether there were any more hidden opportunities, no one else could be certain about that. These ancient race tribesmen were ordered to keep a watch over this secret ground. In order to make the most out of this, they struck a deal with beings of the thousands of races out there. If they wanted to enter this place, all they had to do was bring 100 captives from the thousands of races out there. Each time the ancient race tribesmen killed these beings of the thousands of races, they would receive the blessings of the heavens will. This was as good as rearing pigs to kill for the ancient race tribesmen, N-O-V-E in .c ohm. And of course, the pigs were none other than these people from the thousands of races out there. Once these beings of the thousands of races out there obtained entry within the secret ground, these ancient race tribesmen would follow behind closely. They wouldn't head out to look for these so-called opportunities with them. Instead, they would just wait patiently. By the time these beings of the thousands of races out there found any opportunities, they would then be massacred and have those opportunities stolen. Even if they didn't get to find any opportunities, killing them would give these ancient race tribesmen some blessings from the heavens will. A trade like this which gave them nothing but benefits was the best in their eyes. In the eyes of the ancient race tribesmen, members of the thousands of races out there were nothing but ants. To think that these fools would dream of finding a single glow of hope in this place which they knew the ancient race would have wiped clean. How stupid could they get? Lin Fan trod forth shiftily. The things that these guys did were simply way too infuriating. Even though there were no humans amongst those beings of the thousands of races, wasn't this still such a beastly act to commit? No matter what, the just and righteous Lin Fan could definitely not let something like this happen. In order to seek vengeance for those of the thousands of races out there who had perished, he was determined to give these guys his own trial and sentence them himself. Within this infinite slaughter ancient realm laid a thick, dense killing intent. In fact, there seemed to be some sort of consciousness that lied alive within this deep killing intent. Lin Fan could make out scenes of battle between the thousands of races and the ancient race from this shroud of thick killing intent. Lin Fan knew that the battle intent that was emitted by powerful beings during battle could dissipate over time. However, these battle intents wouldn't disappear entirely. They would turn into a form of special existence on their own. Rock's breath. Lin Fan took in a deep breath and sucked in a ball of killing intent within his tummy. Suddenly, thunder boomed out within his mind as though there were 1,000 galloping horses and armies. After that, a notification rang out from the system as the killing intent was entirely suppressed down. Ding! Experience points plus 10. Lin Fan had not expected that this small amount of killing intent he had taken in could amount to 10 experience points. That was pretty surprising. Evidently, this killing intent must be something good to be able to convert into experience points. There should be some special properties attached to it as well. However, Lin Fan did not place this on his mind momentarily. His goal first now was to first sniff out those of the thousands of races out there who had betrayed their fellow comrades. Suddenly, the void before him began to vibrate as the entire infinite slaughter ancient realm's void seemed to be tearing apart. At the same time, an accompanying aura appeared. This aura was heavy and vicissitudinous, bringing with it a really familiar feeling. Lin Fan leapt forth a few steps before keeping in his aura and hiding in a corner. Heavenly star eruption. In the distance ahead, a figure in long robes floated in the skies. Pushing his hands out like a slap, a gigantic glowing ball of energy burst forth against a ferocious creature that was born from the killing intent of this place. This ferocious creature was gigantic and huge. Its body was made up of parts from the fallen beings of the thousands of races and the ancient race. That creature was turned into dust by this energy ball instantly. Within the dust laid a single piece of crystal with a ghastly glow. Seems like Lady Luck's shining on me for me to encounter an ancient realm beast. The man stretched out his hand and retrieved the crystal with a smirk. Even though this crystal may only possess 1% of its original strength, it's some sort of reward nevertheless. Wan Xiaoxing laughed out wildly. Lin Fan looked over at that man. He had a pretty decent cultivation, Azure Celestial full cultivation. If this were in the past, Lin Fan might have felt that exchanging blows with him might get a little tricky. However, ever since he had cultivated those true skill seeds, his battle power had increased by quite a fair bit. As such, killing someone like him was as easy as a hand flip. Who's there? Wan Xiaoxing's face was startled as he kept the crystal and turned his gaze behind him. Lin Fan revealed himself as he cast a look of disdain at this guy. Who are you? I don't recall seeing someone like you amongst those of us who entered the infinite slaughter ancient realm. Wan Xiaoxing looked at Lin Fan warily. I've seen people from the star world before. While their cultivation states may not be as high as yours, their courage was definitely way beyond yours. To think that you would offer 100 beings of the other races up for death. What a shameless person you are. Lin Fan said. HMPH. Wan Xiaoxing snorted coldly. To think that this person was here to teach him a life lesson. But, words were meaningless at this point. With the flip of his hand, the energy of the stars descended and burst forth towards Lin Fan. Lad, mind your own business. Saint Star Punch. This punch of Wan Xiaxing possessed the power of the stars. It was as if he had taken the stars down from the galaxies, turning them into a fist before pummeling it over at Lin Fan. Lin Fan leapt into the void and activated his true skill seed. Instantly, a flurry of figures were left in the void. Big Rapam, Lin Fan wanted to let this guy know the true meaning of horror. He had intended to take this guy down with a single strike. However, on second thoughts, he might as well recycle this trash. With a single palm strike, a Bigra dragon burst out howling. What's that palm skill? Looking at how his fist was pierced through that easily, Wan Xiaxing was astonished. HMPH. Palm skill. This is a palm skill that lets you blossom in spring. Lin Fan couldn't be bothered explaining much to this guy. Explode. Bam. The Bigra dragoon coiled itself around Wan Xiaxing before erupting into a thick, dense mist. What in the world? Wan Xiaxing had never seen a palm strike of this type before. To think that this mist would be produced by that palm strike. Furthermore, the shocking thing was that this mist seemed pretty adhesive. No matter how much he slapped it away, it seemed to be gravitating towards him and entering his body through all his pores. His nose, his skin, etc. Suddenly, Wan Xiaxing found himself losing control of his mental state as he howled out. After the mist dissipated, Lin Fan was nowhere to be found. The only person left there was Wan Xiaxing, with bloodshot eyes and a massive surge within his heart that he couldn't shake off. Wan Xiaxing's breathing was hurried right now. There was only a single thought on his mind. He wanted to find a hole. Any hole, anything circular and with depth. Looking at Wan Xiaxing turning into a streak of light and bursting forth into the distance, Lin Fan smirked frostily, "Small fry, yours truly shall play with you today." Chapter 509. Brother, where are you touching? Chapter 509. Brother, where are you touching? Haha, not bad, not bad. Seems like the killing intent of the infinite slaughter ancient realm does help in raising the power of my war king's world extinguishing fist. Within a region of the realm where the killing intent was especially putrid, a bald man clad in black armor was seated cross-legged on the ground, taking in the thick killing intent surrounding him. This bald man was from the war world. With a pair of iron fists, he took on the entire world. In order to prove the power of his fists, he had ascended up into the ancient saint world. Afterward, he caught wind of the mighty killing intent that laid within this infinite slaughter ancient realm. He then thought of many ways to get himself in here in order to absorb the killing intent, so that he could infuse it within his war king's world extinguishing fist and push it to greater heights. If only I could cultivate here for a good 10 years, I could definitely push war king's world extinguishing fist to its peak. But a pity that those ancient race beings would never give me the chance. Seems like I've got to head over here more often from now on. Zhan Wudi's eyes were filled with disappointment. In fact, there was even some greed within them. If only he could make this entire place his, how great would that be? However, a thought like that was fleeting and passed by as quickly as it came. After all, everyone knew how strong the ancient race was. Leave alone taking over this entire place, whether or not he could remain alive to get out of this place later on was still a question. Seems like this place is entirely controlled by the ancient race. Who knows if there'll be any hidden opportunities left. But then again, opportunities present themselves to those with affinity. Those ancient race beings themselves may not even know of those opportunities if that's the case. Seems like I'll start taking a look around after cultivating for a bit more. Zhan Wudi thought to himself. All of the people who had entered this time around had gotten to where they were by struggling step by step. How could they not know of the motives of these ancient race tribesmen? However, right now, every single known secret ground within the ancient saint world was controlled completely by the ancient race. Gaining entry to these places for any one of the thousands of races out there would be tougher than ascending the heavens itself. Right now, the entrance fee for entering the infinite slaughter ancient realm was only 100 beings from the thousands of races. Even though it might be a little cruel, what was this small loss compared to the gains of the future? No, vel b in .c ohm. Brother Xiaxing, you're here. Zhan Wudi, who was in the midst of taking in the killing intent of the surroundings, could sense the presence of Wan Xiaxing. However, he did not open his eyes and merely asked casually. Wan Xiaxing wasn't a threat to Zhan Wudi at all. Therefore, he wasn't bothered in the least bit. He knew clearly what the other party's cultivation and his capabilities were. He was no match for Zhan Wudi at all. Furthermore, now that he was taking in the killing intent of the surroundings, he did not want this to end so quickly. Given his impenetrable body, what could Wan Xiaxing do to him? And even if this Wan Xiaxing dared to sneak in an attack on him, he could turn the tides with the flip of his palms. Hiding in a dark corner, Lin Fan observed this man clad in black armor. This man had an immense battle intent, which was sharp as a razor and could tear through the void. This was evidently someone from the war world. Furthermore, his cultivation state was at desolate celestial lower level. He could be considered a powerful being. If Lin Fan were to take him on directly, there would be no issues given his current strength with the true skill seeds. Furthermore, this man should only be trained in a single skill. There was no need to fear him if he only had a single true skill seed if that were the case. Lin Fan waited patiently, wondering what Wan Xiaoxing would do. Brother Xiaoxing, what are you trying to do? Just then, Zhan Wudi, who had his eyes closed tightly shut, jerked momentarily. He had felt an icy cold hand fondling the back of his head gently. The hand then slid down his neck and continued downwards. Brother Xiaoxing, this is not a funny joke. Stop right now. Zhan Wudi was in the midst of his cultivation as he suddenly hollered out. This holler was enough to reach the depths of one's soul. In fact, anyone whose cultivation state was too low might probably even feel their innards shudder with this single holler. Zhan Wudi did not know what this fellow was up to. However, he was in the middle of gathering the killing intent crystal right now. He couldn't let all his efforts go to waste just like this. At this moment, his eyes suddenly burst wide open. A frightening flash of light shot out from his eyes. Wan Xiaoxing, you're courting death. Zhan Wudi could not believe this guy before him. To think that he would grab at the object at his groin. Lin Fan's jaws dropped wide open as well with a face of absolute disbelief. To think that Wan Xiaoxing would be this perverted. Not only did he reach out and pull at Zhan Wudi's object at his groin, he had even fondled it gently for a little bit. I want to do you. Wan Xiaoxing's eyes were bloodshot right now. Pushing Zhan Wudi onto the ground, he started pursing his lips and kissing Zhan Wudi all over. Wan Xiaoxing, go to hell. Zhan Wudi was completely riled up by now. To think that Wan Xiaoxing would do such a thing to him. Bam! Zhan Wudi sent Wan Xiaoxing flying away with a devastating punch. Holy FCK, why the FCK did you have to touch him like that, brother? Lin Fan was completely stumped right now as well. This fella had better not kill Wan Xiaoxing just like that. Otherwise, yours truly's experience points would be lost just like that. However, to Lin Fan's astonishment, Wan Xiaoxing did not suffer any injuries from Zhan Wudi's punch. All he did was spit out a single mouthful of blood. How could this be? Lin Fan could not understand this at all. Wan Xiaoxing was only an azure celestial full cultivation being while Zhan Wudi was a desolate celestial lower level being. Even though it was just one cultivation state apart, that single punch by Zhan Wudi should have been enough to shatter Wan Xiaoxing's body completely. Don't resist. It'll be over real quickly. Wan Xiaoxing howled out before pouncing forth without any regards for his life at all. Are you F***king insane? Zhan Wudi yelled out and sent another punch flying, determined to kill Wan Xiaoxing. Even though the both of them knew one another, to think that this fellow would do something like this to him. Unforgivable. Lin Fan was completely dumbfounded right now. In fact, he began to question Bigra's effects. Even though he knew that Bigra was strong, something seemed to be off with this situation. Could it be that Bigra's effects had changed slightly after it was turned into a skill? Or, could it be that anyone who was in heat would have both their offensive and defensive capabilities augmented? Otherwise, how else could he explain why Wan Xiaoxing could stand up against Zhan Wudi for such a long time? Right now, Wan Xiaoxing was sprawled on Zhan Wudi's back. Like an agile snake, he was coiling himself around Zhan Wudi and was gnawing at his neck area. Zhan Wudi's clothes were decreasing by the moment as well. It seemed like Wan Xiaoxing was preparing for a back entry. Lin Fan was watching silently. Seizing an opportunity, he moved in a flash and churned his true skill seed, hollering out. Firmament. A flash of axe broke through the void. Being coiled down by Wan Xiaoxing, Zhan Wudi suddenly had goosebumps. He could sense danger surging through his mind. Punching out with both hands, his battle intent was unparalleled. War King's World Extinguishing Fist. Even though Zhan Wudi had yet to master his War King's World Extinguishing Fist to its ultimate state, he had done enough to be able to cultivate this skill into a true skill seed. Breaking through the void, the fists brought with it a devastating amount of power while it struck out at Lin Fan. Suddenly, Wan Xiaoxing, who was behind Zhan Wudi, made use of the chance to jerk suddenly, causing Zhan Wudi to scream out in utmost pain, F***ker. I'll kill you. Zhan Wudi was completely incensed by now. Grabbing out with his claw-like hand, he was bent on pulling Wan Xiaoxing over. However, Wan Xiaoxing, who was bending behind him, was sticking to him like a dogskin plaster, rendering him unable to exert much strength. True Origin's crushing kick. Lin Fan's body flashed once more as he kicked out. This single kick broke through the void and brought with it every single emotion known to mankind as it landed on Zhan Wudi's crotch. Ah! An even more tragic howl burst out from Zhan Wudi's mouth. The pain in his groin right now was like tidal waves, crashing down repeatedly. In light of the pain, Zhan Wudi bent over, causing his A*S to be raised in the air. Seizing the opportunity once more, Wan Xiaoxing pushed in completely. He was like Christopher Columbus who had just discovered America right now. He had just discovered new grounds. All of you, go to hell. Lin Fan was the one who made use the opportunity to slash down with his axe. Killing two birds with one stone. A flash of axe light appeared as firmament burst out as well, tearing down this dimension. Chapter 510. Looking at one another is turning a little creepy. Chapter 510. Looking at one another is turning a little creepy. This is unbearable to watch. My heart feels a little pained. Lin Fan clutched at his chest and took a deep breath. He then returned to his initial expression, and the pained expression had disappeared entirely as well. Ding! Congratulations on killing Azure Celestial full cultivation being Wan Xiaoxing. Ding! Experience points plus 40,000. Ding! Congratulations on killing Desolate Celestial lower level Zhan Wudi. Ding! Experience points plus 50,000. Ding! Obtained War King's World Extinguishing Fist. Ding! Congratulations on leveling up. Ding! Azure Celestial middle level. ... The experience points that Lin Fan had obtained from killing these two people with Bigra were pretty significant. Not only did he level up, he lucked out as well, because a single skill popped out. Lin Fan truly understood right now. Whether or not items appeared was completely dependent on luck. And even though these two people had a pretty decent cultivation state, none of them gave off any treasures. What a pity. However, that grim and sinister Mu Tian did seem to be holding on to a treasure. Lin Fan wondered what he had. Ding! Do you want to learn War King's World Extinguishing Fist? Learn. Lin Fan did not care what sort of skills he was learning any longer. After all, any utter trash skill could turn into an insanely powerful skill in his hands. With Lin Fan's current cultivation state, he could immediately master War King's World Extinguishing Fist to a pretty decent level. While it couldn't be said to be invincible, it was still pretty respectable. Lin Fan punched out with both his fists and the void rippled. One fist carried with it the will of the fist, while the other fist carried with it destruction. It was all-encompassing, with a boundless, devastating power, as though the doomsday had appeared once more. Indeed, this is pretty strong. If not for the fact that Wan Xiaoxing was being so horny, Zhan Wudi might have been able to stall for a really long time with these fists alone. After retrieving his fists, Lin Fan could not help but acknowledge. After keeping both of their storage rings, Lin Fan noticed a group of people approaching from the distance, then disappeared from where he was. Post Lin Fan's departure, a group of ancient race tribesmen appeared. Why have everyone disappeared? They had sensed a disturbance in the surroundings and rushed forth. Therefore, they were naturally bewildered that there was no one upon their arrival. Continue searching. It's almost time to take them all in. The ancient race tribesman remarked. Mu Tian, who possesses the treasure, is our only target. Kill everyone else on sight. Hee. These bunch of ants are sure agile on their feet. Now that Lin Fan had leveled up once more, he could feel the power level within his body surging yet again. With every single strike, even if the earth did not shatter, he could create waves of impact at the very least. Weren't those two fellas way too poor? Lin Fan looked through the storage rings with a face of exasperation. To think that there wasn't anything significant in their storage rings. Just how poor were they? But, what Lin Fan did not know was that the both of them had ascended into the ancient saint world without knowing the actual circumstances up here. They had thought that this would be a perfectly wonderful place. Therefore, before they ascended, both of them kept all the treasures that they had accumulated over their lifetime into some cave so that they could pull off some gimmick for others to search for their treasures as well. However, to their dismay, they found out after ascending that the ancient saint world was a complete sham. At the same time, they utterly regretted their actions. If they had known that the ancient saint world would be so scammy, they wouldn't have left their items back in their lower worlds. Wan Xiaoxing had killed an ancient realm creature earlier on and received a crystal. Devouring the crystal, Lin Fan obtained some experience points from it. However, this was far from enough for someone like Lin Fan. Lin Fan had not expected to let anyone who entered this place off. The moment he bumped into any of them, he would kill them for sure. All these B***stards were way too cruel, without any heart of sympathy at all. To think that they would sell out their comrades in order to gain access to a secret ground. Where were their morals? In the ancient saint world, the only people who could stand up against the ancient race were practically only those who had ascended into this world. After all, these were the beings that had gone through bloodshed and trials in their lives before entering this place. Anyone who was born naturally in the ancient saint world was way too naive about life. While it wasn't that there weren't any naturally born powerful beings in the ancient saint world, there was really just a few of them to be found. Lin Fan stopped in his tracks and hid in a corner. He had spotted an ancient race tribesman entering a cave nearby. Right after he entered, someone from the Thunder race followed suit. Lin Fan had some vague impressions of this person from the Thunder race. Back outside, he didn't even let a little kid go. He was a thorough degenerate. An ancient race tribesman and a degenerate. Goddammit, yours truly swears that if he doesn't FCK you guys up real bad, he'll follow your surnames. Lin Fan observed his surroundings. Once he was sure the coast was clear, he moved nimbly and appeared at the entrance of the cave. Lin Fan did not know what was going on within, and did not have the intentions to enter real deep either. Hey, courting your own death. Yours truly shall see if you guys have got the luck then. Lin Fan couldn't be bothered to exchange blows with these guys. Whatever, if he could sneak kills on them, he would. And even if he couldn't, he would try as best as he could to do it. Bigra, I'm counting on you. Lin Fan took in a deep breath and the true skill seed churned. He then spat out a huge breath of air, causing a gust to appear as Bigra surged within the cave. The true skill seed of Bigra was shining brightly right now, as the quantity in its storage was decreasing. Slapping his storage, Lin Fan cultivated thousands of Bigra instantly and swallowed them into his tummy, replenishing the supply. Yours truly refuses to believe that he can't kill shish ts like you. Lin Fan spat out once more. Under the control of Lin Fan, the Bigra mist permeated the cave. Suddenly, Lin Fan could sense that the person from the Thunder race was fighting it out with the ancient race tribesmen. The fight seemed to be pretty intense. In fact, it was so intense that neither of them had realized this mysterious mist that was surrounding them. Bigra rose slowly and filled the entire space between these two. What's this? The person of the Thunder race had suddenly noticed the mist as his face changed. However, he snapped back into focus almost immediately as the ancient race tribesman sent a punch to his face. HMPH, Ant. Don't get distracted. The ancient race being laughed frostily. He did not put the surrounding mist to heart at all. Slapping out, he cleared the mist as he continued fighting. You want to kill me, EH? Let's see if you've got the capabilities then. The Thunder race being was surprised by the punch. However, he hollered out in rage and retaliated mercilessly. Gathering the power of thunder within his palms, the void crackled and boomed out non-stop. Lin Fan controlled the Bigra as his face was equally ice-cold. To think that these two fellas still did not know that they were at death's door. But that didn't matter. It was time to let them understand some pain. Both the Thunder race and ancient race beings took in a large amount of Bigra with every single breath they took. Furthermore, each time they struck out, the ripples that were caused would create even more reactions within the Bigra mist. Gradually, both of their eyes began to turn bloodshot as the colors of their faces started changing too. What's happening? The breathing of the Thunder race being was starting to get haphazard. It was as though something was penetrating his heart. The same thing was happening to the ancient race being, as his breathing got ever more hurried. But this wasn't the scariest thing of all. They were slowly discovering something new. At the start of everything, each time they glared at one another, their gazes were filled with contempt and hatred. However, they were beginning to realize that the other party didn't seem that detestable all of a sudden. Each time that feeling surged within their hearts, they themselves would feel the fear accompanying the realization of that feeling. But that wasn't the only creepy thing. They were beginning to lose control of their bodies. N-O-V-E in .c ohm. Gradually. No. Chapter 511, Thunder Trainer King. Chapter 511, Thunder Trainer King. Ever since Bigra was turned into a skill, it was infused with a will of its own, and its medicinal effects received an improvement as well. However, it might only barely be enough against the top powerful beings of desolate celestial state. But Lin Fan had already planned for ways to improve its effects. After all, as long as it was a skill, Lin Fan was certain that he could make it work. Suddenly, a tragic wail rang out from within the cave. Lin Fan, who was busy gobbling down Bigras, was startled by the cry as he came to a stop. That cry sounded so tragic. Lin Fan clutched at his chest as though he had just committed some savage crime. Guys, don't blame yours truly. You've only got yourselves to blame for your cruel and inhumane acts. Yours truly had no choice but to do this to you guys. Lin Fan did not have to guess to know what was happening within. It must be a really appalling sight to behold. There hadn't been many instances where people had survived under the marvelous might of Bigra. Other than Long Zon, every other living being had crumbled under the prowess of Bigra and lost their sanity. Moving nimbly, Lin Fan entered the cave. Things must be a real mess right now within. He thought about the sight he would be forced to face once more. Seemed like those innocent eyes of his would once again be tainted by the impurities of this world. Within the cave, Lin Fan knew his way around since he was the one controlling the movement Bigra at the start. Hence, he found them really quickly. Dense and impenetrable, the shroud was thick and swiveling around everywhere. Within that thick shroud, those two figures seemed ever so beautiful within. Bobbing up and down, a clear sound resonated through the caves. This is a little unbearable to watch. Lin Fan covered his eyes. It was hard to imagine the situation that was unfolding before his very eyes. And to think that he was the one who had created this entire scenario. Things were bound to turn really disastrous once the two of them snapped back to their senses. Bigra was getting deadlier as time went by. Back in the past, it was just a godly pill to Zhang or Go and the others while they could endure popping it down daily. However, right now, anyone who took it in was definitely in for it. Pleasure aside, they couldn't even control themselves from performing all these shameless acts. War King's World Extinguishing Fist. Lin Fan could not bear to stain his eyes any longer. In the blink of an eye, he sent two fists flying out as the will of the punch descended into a doomsday calamity that repressed these two guys completely. War King's World Extinguishing Fist wasn't a difficult skill to cultivate. The only thing required for it was for one to have an extremely strong will to fight. All was good as long as one could supply that never-ending thirst for a battle of the punches. Furthermore, the thick and dense killing intent within this place was the perfect nourishment for that skill. Once Lin Fan was done with all of the trashes in this place, he would then take his time to slowly cultivate War King's World Extinguishing Fist till he could convert it into a true skill seed and evolve it. Those two fellas who were busy releasing their pent-up frustrations had long since discovered Lin Fan. However, even though their inner hearts were struggling and fighting, their minds were like the boundless sea right now, crushing down their will and ability to control their bodies. As both of the fists landed with equal will and destruction, these two guys were destroyed instantly. Ding! Congratulations on killing Desolate Celestial Lower Level Thunder Race Being. Ding! Experience points plus 40,000. Ding! Congratulations on killing Desolate Celestial Lower Level Ancient Race Being. Ding! Experience points plus 40,000. Ding! Congratulations on obtaining Thunder Esoteric. Ding! Trainer Profession senses Thunder Esoteric. Absorb. Lin Fan's face changed immediately. To think that he would find a single true skill seed floating there after killing that Thunder Race Being. The true skill seed crackled with lightning, as though it was filled with a world of thunder within. And even more incredibly, to think that his trainer profession would pop up, requesting to absorb this. While Lin Fan did not know what this was used for, if trainer wanted to absorb it, then absorb it he would. Absorb. Ding. Absorption success. Trainer profession undergoing change. Ding. Trainer profession now has a consciousness of its own. Young Thunder Trainer King. Holy FCK. Lin Fan was completely flabbergasted right now. What in the world was going with the system right now? To think that a trainer profession could even gain a will of its own. This couldn't be a joke, right? Boom. Suddenly, a young, bald kid appeared before him. This kid was surrounded by crackling lightning all around his body while wielding a long whip. This kid's gaze was extremely sharp, as though a world of righteousness was filled within his eyes. With just a single glance, his gaze was entrancing, causing one to be drawn deeply into him. I am the Thunder Trainer King. A voice boomed out as the kid's expression did not change in the slightest bit. Do you require the Thunder Trainer King to conduct training for you? The small hands of the young kid slapped out on the ground with the whip suddenly, causing a loud cracking of the whip. And no need. Lin Fan shook his head immediately. He was still in a state of loss, trying to figure out what in the world was going on exactly. How the hell did Trainer produce a consciousness of its own after he had just absorbed a Thunder Esoteric? Wasn't this some wild exaggeration? Soon, the young Thunder Trainer King turned into a streak of lightning and entered Lin Fan's body. Lin Fan could sense the Thunder Trainer King resting within his body, and that he could summon this child with a single thought. This Thunder Trainer King reminded Lin Fan of the founder for use of electroconvulsive treatment for internet addiction, Yang Yongxin, No vel b in c ohm. Don't tell me that this Thunder Trainer King is going to follow down that same path. Lin Fan had always held his trainer profession in high regards. It was a skill that he would use for people he viewed as valuable but would not submit to him. But, with the appearance of this Thunder Trainer King, Lin Fan felt that his life was getting really fcked up. This was some horrifying sh*t. Lin Fan did not think too much about this anymore. Once he had the time, he would further examine this Thunder Trainer King. The corpses of the Thunder and ancient race beings were still fused together. Furthermore, the positions of these two corpses right now were pretty indecent. So, Lin Fan could not be bothered to head up and take a look. He took out his demon city and absorbed their essence within it entirely. Now that his demon city was a supreme spirit weapon with the big ancient demon serving as its foundation, as long as he continued cultivating it, turning it into a Tao weapon or even utmost treasure was definitely no issue at all. The void was flowing with energy in a corner of the infinite slaughter ancient realm. Mu Tian's hand was like a claw right now as he dug into the ground. A massive surge of energy burst out, causing the pitch-black ground to quake violently. After that, a purple spirit vein was caught within Mu Tian's hands. To think that my luck could actually get this good for me to discover the spirit vein of a powerful being who had fallen here. Mu Tian kept the spirit vein within his storage ring. Once he was out and he could refine it, it could definitely raise his power level for sure. Mu Tian looked up into the never-ending void as his eyes shone with a glint. The secret grounds of the ancient saint world were all controlled by the ancient race right now. All the treasures within had been swiped by the ancient race as well. Everything that was remaining were secret treasures that awaited those with affinity. If one did not have the luck, not only could they get nothing, they may very well lose their lives here even. Just as Mu Tian was about to leave, his path forward was blocked. Haha, not bad, not bad. To think that you could still find some treasures, The ancient race beings had finally caught up with Mu Tian. They were watching him retrieve that item below the ground with thirsty, lustful eyes. I knew that the ancient race wouldn't be that kind-hearted. But do you guys really think that you can snatch away meat from a tiger's mouth? Mu Tian replied these ancient race beings sternly. Meat in a tiger's mouth. Haha, let's see who the tiger is then. Chapter 512. Those experience points. What a pity. Chapter 512. Those experience points. What a pity. The thousands of races out there are nothing but souls reared by the ancient race. If you do not wish to die, you had better hand over that spirit vein you found. The ancient race being's leader, Ji Yu Yao, looked at Mu Tian with the intentions of toying with him. It was as though Mu Tian's life and death were in the palm of his hands. Ever since they had taken control of the infinite slaughter ancient realm, there had been countless numbers of beings from the thousands of races who were devoured by them. And each and every one of them had thought of themselves to be really smart and clever, only to be played out by the ancient race eventually. If you want this spirit vein, that will have to depend on whether you've got the capabilities to get it from me. Mu Tian laughed coldly. He instantly stretched out those long, pale hands of his. The moment he did that, the meat from his hands moved away, revealing those ghastly bones beneath. Using his finger, he poked into the void. Suddenly, a gust of energy vortex gushed out towards the ancient race. Know your place. Brothers, take him down. The Ji Yu Yao hollered out. With that, an earth-shattering explosion broke out. There was only a single thought on Mu Tian's mind right now. He wanted to get out of this place as quickly as possible. While he knew that he might not be a match for these ancient race beings if they clashed, he knew that they wouldn't be able to take him down as easily either. You wanna leave? Why don't you take a look at who's controlling this place? Ji Yu Yao hollered out. His aura was extremely intense right now as it gathered together like a dragoon, causing the void nearby to crack and weave out like a gigantic spider web. The entire void was then sealed. Anyone who wanted to leave would have to try ascending the heavens first. Do you really think we wouldn't know that you've been hiding your cultivation state? Even a desolate celestial upper-level being is nothing but an ant to us ancient race beings. Ji Yu Yao's aura was extremely formidable right now, coiling around the place like the boundless seas. Mu Tian's face changed. He had thought that he could have these guys lower their guards if he intentionally hid his cultivation state. Seemed like he had been overthinking things. Not only had these ancient race beings known about his cultivation state from the beginning, they had purposefully allowed him to enter despite knowing it. That must mean that they had the utmost confidence of taking him down right here. Mu Tian retreated step by step. The battle intent of these ancient race beings was unparalleled. Even their physical body states were something that was holding Mutian back. He did not dare to clash with them head-on. As for those fellas who had entered together with him, they must have perished in the hands of these ancient race beings. The heavens' will of the ancient saint world shines upon us from the ancient race. All of you from the thousands of races out there are nothing but ants. Why would you continue to resist us like this? Ji Yu Yao's voice boomed out. With a single palm slap, his true skill seed began to spin. Ancient saints' skies. Suddenly, Ji Yu Yao's pitch-black hands rose up into the air, covering everything as they expanded wildly. Right now, Mutian was literally nothing but the corpse of an ant. It would definitely be impossible to escape out of this gigantic palm. Don't go overboard, Mutian howled out. The air of creepiness instantly turned horrific as thousands of vengeful spirits began to howl out malevolently. Ceaseless pain. A gigantic black door appeared behind Mutian. Above the doors, thousands of ghosts were treading all around the place. A grim aura was emanating from it constantly, as if the door led to the boundless hells. With two gigantic hands pulling onto extremely thick chains, the doors creaked open with ghastly howls. A fiery red flame burst out from within, targeting the mighty hand of Ji Yu Yao that was holding up the skies. These ghosts had extremely sharp teeth as they opened their mouths while the void extended endlessly as though they were bent on devouring the hand to nothingness. All you damned people from the ghost race. Ji Yu Yao had not expected this Mutian to be so tricky to deal with. Slapping with the back of that gigantic hand, it slammed down like a sharp blade as it cut through the void. The moment it made contact with that gigantic door, an intense clanging sound could be heard. Those ghosts who were gnawing on that gigantic hand of Ji Yu Yao were scattered into oblivion with the sound of this gigantic clang. Destroy. While Mutian and Ji Yu Yao were exchanging blows, the other ancient race tribesmen were deploying their own moves and striking out at Mutian. Suddenly, the doors of ceaseless hell shattered apart as Mutian spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. His figure floated unsteadily in the sky. All you ant-like beings of the ghost race. Go to hell. One of the ancient race tribesmen dashed over from the sides. Insolent, Mutian hollered. Gigantic sky burial. The moment Mutian opened his mouth, a large amount of black gas burst forth from within. A gigantic cemetery suddenly appeared between the heaven and earth. Gigantic sky burial was Mutian's treasure, a supreme-grade spirit weapon. Mutian had ascended into the ancient saint world for 100 years now, and had gone through tons of trials and tribulations. There was one time when he came across this treasure within a secret ground by chance. He then refined it within that secret ground itself. The moment the gigantic sky burial appeared, the infinite slaughter ancient realm got ever more sinister like a ghost town. There were numerous tombs and graves in that gigantic sky burial. Some of them were named while others remained anonymous. Supreme-grade spirit weapon. The moment Ji Yu Yao caught sight of the weapon, his eyes shone with greed. This isn't something that someone like you should have. HMPH. All of you from the ancient race are avaricious and insatiable. Do you see it though? Some of these graves are unmarked. But, don't you guys worry. You'll be leaving your mark there soon, real soon. You can then have your fill of torture. Mutian laughed coldly, slapping out with both hands. His furious and rapid slaps powered this spirit treasure. Boo-hoo. A ghostly energy rippled out into the surroundings as those graves on the cemetery burst open suddenly, emitting a black light from within. Ah! Some of the ancient race beings who were struck by the dark light cried out in tremendous pain. Holes started appearing all over their bodies as though they were pierced by this light itself. Ha ha ha, resisting me, you guys must be dreaming. This is the death chi that was created by killing tons of powerful beings. No matter how tough your physical body states of the ancient race may be, it's all futile. Those ancient race tribesmen who were pierced by the dark light turned into essence chi themselves and were coiled together with the ghostly vortex, being sucked into the cemetery. On that gigantic sky burial, all of those ancient race tribesmen who were killed were now wandering around blankly in between the graves, like lifeless zombies. Ha ha, Mutian laughed out wildly as he spat out a mouthful of blood. He was using up every single bit of strength he had to deal with these ancient race tribesmen. In reality, some of the abilities of the gigantic sky burial were still beyond what he could use comfortably. However, he forced them out in order to fight against these ancient race tribesmen. However, the worrisome thing for Mutian right now was that Ji Yu Yao was still alive. No matter what, he definitely had to hold on until he could take Ji Yu Yao down. B****, you're courting death. Looking at his fellow tribesmen being slaughtered, Ji Yu Yao hollered out in anger as a bright flash of light erupted forth from his body. Ji Yu Yao strode forth bare naked, as armor scales began to sprout from within his body, lining his body with a complete body armor. Ji Yu Yao, who was clad with full body armor by now, had reached the peak of his powers. To think that the armor itself would be a spirit weapon. No, vel b in .c ohm. I'll crush your spirit weapon. Ji Yu Yao howled out. With a sudden movement, the void shattered with an explosion. Highs, what a pity. Lin Fan, who was hidden in the corner, could not help but feel pained within his heart at this sight. To think that those living experience points of the ancient race tribesmen would be destroyed by this fella. Damn it, god damn it, even though Lin Fan's heart was aching, he dared not step out. After all, the fight between these two was way too intense right now. Lin Fan was especially envious of that supreme spirit weapon in Mu Tian's hands. That thing seemed a little overbearing. Boom, suddenly, a devastating force burst out, causing the entire infinite slaughter ancient realm to quake violently along with it. Chapter 513, Fallen. Chapter 513, Fallen. What's the situation right now? This fight between both parties was earth-shattering and dizzying, where one could not make out the actual situation within. Lin Fan was hoping desperately that none of the bosses would die. The best-case scenario was for both of them to be gravely injured. After all, when the sandpiper and the clam fought, it would always be the fisherman who would win. Lin Fan had been hidden for a really long time now, awaiting that scenario to play out. When he saw Mu Tian slaughtering all the ancient race tribesmen, his heart was dripping with blood as well. All of those were precious experience points. If only they were killed by him instead. That amount of experience points would be pretty significant. But in order to get the final catch of these two bosses, he had to endure the pain and continue waiting patiently without revealing his secret location. Haha, suddenly, a wild laughter burst out. This was Ji Yu Yao's voice. Mu Tian, what else have you got? Lay it all out. Ji Yu Yao wasn't doing that well right now. The armor on his body was shattered and torn. It gradually dimmed, without the formidable aura it emanated earlier on. Even though this spiritual armor had been destroyed, Ji Yu Yao wasn't infuriated in the least bit. After all, he was of the ancient race's descent and was in possession of a heavenly skill blessed by the heaven's will. As long as he had sufficient treasures, he could easily replicate that armor once more. As for any other living beings in the ancient saint world, once a spirit weapon was destroyed, it was destroyed forever. They could only be dreaming if they were expecting any ancient race beings to repair it for them. Damn it, Mu Tian was in a terrible state right now. His hair was a mess, and many cracks had appeared on his gigantic sky burial, as though it could crumble at any moment. He had built up this spirit weapon painstakingly, only to have it destroyed by this ancient race B*****. The sorrowful howls of the spirit weapon were even permeating into everyone's ears. Ji Yu Yao, I swear that I'll not let you off till you drop today. Mu Tian howled as a fiery rage burned in his heart. Even if he were to tear Ji Yu Yao into pieces, that would barely satisfy his hatred right now. How much time and effort had he used in order to turn his gigantic sky burial into a supreme-grade spirit weapon? Just how much time and effort? Back then when he had obtained the gigantic sky burial, it was only a lower-grade spirit weapon. Over the years, he had been through countless of secret grounds and killed numerous strong beings in order to turn his gigantic sky burial into a supreme-grade spirit weapon. To think that it would be damaged so badly by Ji Yu Yao. How could he tolerate that? Haha, kill me, do you have what it takes? Ji Yu Yao taunted. To him, treasures weren't important in the least bit. While losing a supreme-grade spirit weapon might be quite regrettable, he knew that his riches was boundless as an ancient race being. As long as he could obtain credit for the ancient race, he was bound to be rewarded with tons of these treasures. But to these ants of the thousands of races out there, supreme-grade spirit treasures were extremely hard to come by. After all, they couldn't craft weapons by themselves. If their weapons were destroyed, it would be an extremely crushing feeling for them. Mu Tian's blood chi was rumbling furiously right now. This was the anger that was born from his supreme-grade spirit weapon being damaged. The anger was feeding this power right now. He sprayed out mouthfuls of fresh blood as the color from his face drained even more. In order to give his gigantic sky burial the strength to bang down Ji Yu Yao, he had infused his own energy within it as well. To think that this would be the tragic outcome of his precious weapon. You are already gravely injured. What more can you do to fight against me? Ji Yu Yao took a stride forth as the void rippled. Even though his strength wasn't as formidable as before, killing Mu Tian with this amount of strength was still something easy for him. The ancient race was born with an innate physical body state that was way better than anything this world could provide. Blessed by the heavens will, they held an immense advantage against any other person of the same cultivation state. no vel b in c ohm. Furthermore, now that he had the buff of his treasure, he could take down anyone with nothing to stop him in his path. If not for these privileges, the ancient race would have long been overthrown from their position by all the other races out there. How could they maintain their mighty reign after these millions of years? Mu Tian looked at Ji Yuyao with his heart filled with indignance. However, it was exactly as Ji Yuyao had said. He had already reached his limit. Even if he were to continue clashing against Ji Yuyao, his outcome would still be the same. No, I must absolutely not die here. With this spirit vein, I can definitely enter full cultivation state with ease. In fact, I might even get into that godlike divine celestial cultivation state. Mu Tian thought in his heart. Eyeing the scene before him, Lin Fan was starting to lose his patience. If this Ji Yuyao were to strike right now, Mu Tian would surely die there and then. But if Mu Tian were to die right now, he would be making a really terrible loss. Time to act. PSHEW. Shifting nimbly, the stealth true skill seed within Lin Fan's body activated. In order to deal a fatal strike, those seeds that boosted his power level were churning as well. Firmament. Suddenly, Lin Fan reappeared in the void. Hollering out, he slammed with his axe. This earth-splitting axe cleave brought with it a devastating force as it ripped through the void without giving Ji Yuyao any chance to react at all. WHO dares to. Ji Yuyao's face changed immediately as he cried out. In a maddened rage, he sent a flurry of punches with his will within them, punching out into the void. True Origin's crushing kick. Black Tiger steals heart. Twisting heaven and earth. Instantly, Lin Fan seemed like the maniac as he swiveled 3 true skill seeds within his body and burst forth with so much force that the entire void was torn apart. This power. To think that this man has cultivated this many true skill seeds. Mu Tian, whose breathing was extremely heavy right now, was startled by the scene before him. It was extremely difficult for anyone to cultivate a true skill seed. Furthermore, the true energy that was required to convert them was boundless like the vast seas, and the states required for every skill to be turned into a true skill seed was different as well. And to think that this man could produce 3 of them at one go. All 3 of these skills had been turned into true skill seeds. If their power were to be combined together, that was a force that could probably devastate the entire world. And no, I must seize this opportunity to get out of this place as soon as possible. Mu Tian was panicking right now. He then shifted his body nimbly, trying to get out in the chaos. Escape. Dream on. Lin Fan laughed coldly upon spotting Mu Tian trying to escape. Bigra. Now that his 3 skills were being struck out together, Lin Fan waved out with his palm. Instantly, a gigantic dragon was formed from the Bigra mist as it cut off Mu Tian's path forward. Ah! Ji Yuyao screamed out suddenly, what is this skill? Ji Yuyao could not believe everything that was in his face right now. To think that there would be a flurry of fists and kicks coming from the air. Ji Yuyao had expected his unparalleled defenses to take these strikes with ease. But, he found out in horror that these fists and kicks ignored all of his defenses and kicked straight at his groin. This was an utter humiliation to Ji Yuyao. Any skill that takes your life should be as ballsy as mine. You guys dare to dream of ascending up into the heavens when you're just mere scum. Let yours truly teach you guys what it means to be a proper living being. Lin Fan laughed coldly as his axe flashed out once more. This axe was enough to devastate everything as it tore through the void, bringing with it an unparalleled sharpness. Arg! That was the last cry that rang through the world before Ji Yuyao's body was split cleanly into 2. Everything was way too surreal for Ji Yuyao. He wanted to resist, but he couldn't react in time at all. The pain in both his chest and groin was way too much for him to handle. It came crashing down like a tsunami, wave after wave after wave. Thud! The flash of Lin Fan's eternal axe shone brightly in the entire space. This was the end of Ji Yuyao, who had reigned supreme for his entire life. Fallen, his pitch-black blood sprayed all over the sky. Chapter 514, to think that it would be this strong. Chapter 514, to think that it would be this strong. Ding! Congratulations on killing desolate celestial upper-level being Ji Yuyao. Ding! Experience points plus 60,000. Ding! Congratulations on obtaining damaged supreme grade spirit weapon Black Heaven's demon armor. How can that be? Mu Tian, who was being entrapped by Bigra, was stunned by the scene before him. To think that a powerful being from the ancient race would die just like that. How could that be? Just who in the world was this person here and how did he gain access to the secret ground? Impossible. Back in the ghost world, I have been through tons of trials and tribulations and have escaped death for so many times. Finally, I've reached this point after climbing up step by step. How can I die right here just like this? Mu Tian started to attack frantically. However, the dragon formed by Bigra howled malevolently. Even if he managed to slap out the dragon to dust, it would gather back and form together once more. Lin Fan burst out laughing. Even though his killing of this desolate celestial powerful being was due to him taking advantage of the situation, this could be considered an opportunity in itself. Opportunities were not only limited to seeking out treasures. For him, it was to strike out with thunderous blows and taking down others right when they were at their weakest. 60,000 experience points. That was a pretty significant amount, and he was one step closer to leveling up once more. So what if that was a desolate celestial upper-level being? He was still slain like a pig nevertheless. Even if Lin Fan were to bump into Long Zan right now, he would no longer be the same person he was back then, where he could only struggle helplessly and think of ways to run. Just who in the world are you? Mu Tian looked at Lin Fan warily. He did not stop his struggles as he continued fighting against the Bigra dragon. However, none of these attacks would work on this dragon conjured by Bigra. Even though Lin Fan's cultivation state wasn't as high as Mu Tian, the true skill seeds that he had cultivated were not seeds that Mu Tian could hope to compete against. And those facts weren't even inclusive of the fact that Mu Tian was now heavily injured, and was on the brink of destruction. From the Xuanwang world, I am Lin Fan, a human. Lin Fan tossed his robes aside and looked over at Mu Tian imposingly. In order to gain access to the secret ground, you have sold out our comrades from the thousands of races out there. That is a crime punishable by death. Lin Fan's eyes shone with killing intent. He was bent on killing this Mu Tian. The moment Mu Tian heard this name, he searched the fugitive list hurriedly as his face changed as well. Impossible. Your ranking is in the 200,000, with a cultivation state of Azure Celestial middle level. How can you possibly cultivate true skill seeds? Mu Tian glared at the fugitive list with frightful eyes, unable to believe the stats there. When he had witnessed Lin Fan deploying those true skill seeds with such ease, he was almost certain that this was definitely a powerful being of desolate celestial cultivation state. To think that this guy was only an Azure Celestial after he checked the fugitive list. On the fugitive list, as long as one was ranked 300,000 and above, no matter who he was, he would be sensed by the heavens will of the ancient saint world. Eventually, one's cultivation state would be sniffed out by the world itself. This was the biasedness of the heavens will to give the ancient race the advantage so that they wouldn't send themselves to death unknowingly, without knowing the cultivation states of the other party. When one was talking about the heavens will of the ancient saint world, there was no such thing as fairness. The only thing fair about this was the fact that the heavens will itself had not intervened in the destruction of these beings from the other races. HMPH. The life of yours truly isn't something for a degenerate like you to understand. We don't have much more to talk about today. Your death has arrived. Lin Fan snorted coldly. If he had known from the start that Lin Fan's cultivation state was only an Azure Celestial middle level, Mu Tian might not have believed that this man would have what it took to kill him. However, upon watching how Ji Yu Yao was cleaved down, he finally understood that this man wasn't bluffing at all. Compared to Ji Yu Yao, his injuries were even more severe. If this man wanted to kill him, Mu Tian knew that it was going to be an easy task for Lin Fan. Why do you seek to kill me? We are all beings of the thousands of races out there and share the same goal of resisting against the ancient race. Mu Tian held out, trying to struggle for that last bit of hope. Don't talk to me about that. Back when you gave up the lives of your fellow comrades from the thousands of races out there as a sacrifice for these ancient race beings, your fate had already been decided. Lin Fan replied icily. Haha, you're talking about those trashes. Mu Tian laughed wildly as his face turned ever more baleful. Do you even understand the terrible state of our existence right now? Even the secret grounds, which were the only places where we could hope to seek out a hope of fighting against the ancient race, are controlled by them. What else are we supposed to do if we want to grow stronger faster? So what if we make a small sacrifice now? For the sake of a brighter future of taking down these beings from the ancient race, everything will be worth it. If you tell me that you killing me would help you turn stronger so that you can take down the ancient race, then I, Mu Tian, am willing to die in your hands. Mu Tian screamed out at the top of his lungs, directing these words at Lin Fan. You have your will, and I have mine. Mine is to kill you. Lin Fan's face turned frosty. With a single slap, the void rumbled as the energy currents within them surged and tore through everything. You want to kill me, Mu Tian? You've got to be dreaming. Mu Tian held out. His road was far from the end right now. How could he just die here? You do not know just how cruel the reality of the ancient saint world is. With your current way of thinking, there is no way the thousands of races out there are going to get stronger. That is not something you get to decide. Flipping his palm, Lin Fan slapped out at Mu Tian. The true skill seeds in his body churned, bent on killing Mu Tian. The void rippled with a boundless amount of energy. Mu Tian was spitting out blood repeatedly. Against Lin Fan, his face was filled with horror. If you really want to kill me here, how can I grant your wish? Mu Tian swears that he'll remember the seeds of vengeance sowed today. Between you and me, only one of us shall survive in the future. Mu Tian hollered out as he slapped out with his gigantic sky burial. Explode. Mu Tian's heart was bleeding right now. This was a supreme-grade spirit weapon as well as his only treasure. However, in order to keep his life, he could not think of anything other than this. As long as he could get to cultivate that spirit vein he had obtained, he could easily regain everything he had lost here. Lin Fan had not expected Mu Tian to sacrifice his own supreme-grade spirit weapon like that. Demon City. Lin Fan's palm slapped out as the humongous Demon City appeared. The big ancient demon clamored in anger as his titanic arm stretched out to grab at the gigantic sky burial. Boom! A dazzling light erupted out from within. The self-destruction of a supreme-grade spirit weapon was far from ordinary. The power that was emitted was definitely enough to destroy everything around. The dragon of Bigra broke apart bit by bit before disintegrating completely. Lin Fan, I'll remember your name. The vengeance today, Mu Tian will make you pay for it. ... Lin Fan moved nimbly. Looking around, he frowned. Damn it, to think that I let that fella slip. Lin Fan had not expected this move of self-detonating his weapon. To think that the power of a supreme-grade spirit weapon's self-destruction could be this strong that even the walls of the infinite slaughter ancient realm were blown apart. As for where Mu Tian was right now, Lin Fan had no idea. After keeping silent for a moment, Lin Fan heaved in a deep breath. This was a huge loss to take. To think that Mu Tian was keeping this up his sleeves. But it didn't matter. This was a lesson learned then. If he were to meet with such a situation in the future, he would know how to deal with it. Lin Fan looked around at the infinite slaughter ancient realm. He was in no hurry to leave. Whether or not this place had any hidden treasures, Lin Fan wasn't interested in that. He refused to believe that his luck was that good for him to be able to find a treasure in this secret ground which must have been combed thousands of times by so many other people for treasures. However, the killing intent in this place was pretty useful. It would do well to boost the power level of his War King's world-extinguishing fist. Chapter 515, Doomsday Calamity. Chapter 515, Doomsday Calamity. The supreme-grade spirit weapon, Black Heaven's demon armor, had already been damaged, and Lin Fan did not have the patience to repair it. The armor was given to Ji Yu Yao as a gift from the heavens after he performed some exceptional merits for the ancient race. The body portion of that Black Heaven's demon armor was already tattered after that collision against the gigantic sky burial earlier on. Right now, it was tethering on the brink of collapse. If Lin Fan wanted to repair this armor, he would need not only a large amount of true energy, but supplementary treasures to toss into the heaven and earth smelt together. The strong point of this armor was that it provided a perfect defense against all sorts of attacks. But to Lin Fan, this strong point was absolutely useless. Devour. The mouth of the big ancient demon opened widely as it consumed the entire Black Heaven's demon armor whole. The spirit weapon itself started howling as well. However, it wasn't too long before the armor was digested into nutrients for Demon City itself. Suddenly, the bare body of the big ancient demon shone brightly, as black armor scales began to line it. Seems like devouring spirit weapons can allow the Demon City to grow as well. Lin Fan thought before he sped off into the distance. The killing intent in this place was good stuff indeed. However, there was a huge clash that had happened here earlier on, and all the killing intent had been dispersed by the fight between Mu Tian and Ji Yu Yao. It would take some time before the killing intent culminated together once more. Hence, Lin Fan headed off to look for another spot where the killing intent was the thickest and densest. Astral winds, earth and fires, killing intent. Within a really deep part of the infinite slaughter ancient realm, the void seemed like the end of the world right now, as the violent currents rippled out into the distance. To anyone else, this was definitely the most dangerous part of the entire secret ground. If they were to be caught into this turbine vortex by accident, they would definitely be turned into mincemeat. However, Lin Fan didn't even move a brow as he dived straight in. Those three different forces ripped out at Lin Fan's body as though they were bent on tearing him apart completely. However, this amount of force was just right for Lin Fan. This was neither painful nor ticklish. He barely felt anything at all. Rock's breath. An illusory figure of a gigantic rock appeared behind Lin Fan suddenly. This gigantic and humongous creature opened its mouth, and as though they could no longer control themselves, every single fiber of the world began to be sucked into the rock's mouth. Legend has it that a matured rock could easily suck up the true energy in one part of the world with a single mouthful. Compared to that, this illusory rock that was summoned by Lin Fan's was still way far off. However, if it were just to suck in the killing intent of this entire infinite slaughter ancient realm, it is still more than enough. PSHEW. Devouring the heaven and earth, a large amount of killing intent rose up furiously, forming a gigantic tornado that swiveled in towards Lin Fan's body. Suppress. Suppress. N-O-V-E in .c ohm. With this large influx of killing intent within Lin Fan's body, the system interfered immediately to convert this into crystals. With this conversion speed, even a desolate celestial cultivation state being would be hard-pressed to match up against it. This killing intent here carried with it the battle will of countless powerful beings. If they were not converted, the killing intent would swim around the body freely. No matter who it was, they would almost lose their sense of control to this berserk intent almost immediately. Ding! Congratulations on obtaining slaughter crystal. Ding! Congratulations on obtaining slaughter crystal. ... One by one, these gray, dusky crystals floated within Lin Fan's body as they increased in quantity. In this short period of time, Lin Fan had already gathered over 1,000 crystal shards. But this was far from enough. Compared to the entire infinite slaughter ancient realm, this was nothing more than a scoop in the great, vast ocean of killing intent. Yours truly is a genius indeed. With the system watching over me, who in the world can take on yours truly? Lin Fan was brimming with confidence. He was absolutely certain of the bright future he had awaiting him. As long as he continued on a steady track, overturning the utmost 8 beings was not going to be a difficult task. Time gradually passed. As the number of slaughter crystals gathered, Lin Fan's blood and cells were lining up with these crystal shards with a gray glow. During that clash back then, innumerable powerful beings had fallen in this place. With the passage of time, the killing intent that was formed got even denser. Within this killing intent was filled the battle hunger of these powerful beings. Even Zhan Wudi himself had to slowly temper and smelt this killing intent into crystal shards. However, with the existence of the system, these battle intents were naturally no issue for Lin Fan. War King's World Extinguishing Fist. Lin Fan suddenly stood up and punched out with both fists. Consisting of both will and devastating power, he pushed the War King's World Extinguishing Fist to its limits. The will and devastation of the fist were infused with one another perfectly. As though it was a doomsday calamity, the chi of life and death started circulating as well. The slaughter crystal shards that were formed with Lin Fan's body were infused within this War King's World Extinguishing Fist. Ding! War King's World Extinguishing Fist leveled up. Ding! War King's World Extinguishing Fist leveled up. ... Dissolving into a steady stream of energy, the slaughter crystals that were formed flowed towards the War King's World Extinguishing Fist like a river. The more the consciousness of the War King's World Extinguishing Fist leveled up, the more of an understanding Lin Fan gained towards this skill. Not enough. I need just that bit more. Devour the heaven and earth. Boom! The infinite slaughter ancient realm quaked violently as the boundless amount of killing intent turned into a 1,000-miles-long dragon and spun over, digging itself into Lin Fan's body. If anyone else were present right now, they would definitely be watching this scene of Lin Fan absorbing the killing intent with their mouth agape. After all, the speed of absorption was simply out of this world. Even a divine celestial cultivation state being might not possess the same ability as Lin Fan. Ding! War King's World Extinguishing Fist leveled up. Once again, the crystal shards turned into a river and flowed into the War King's World Extinguishing Fist. Lin Fan used the skill once more, punching out and causing the entire heaven and earth to rumble. The entire infinite slaughter ancient realm seemed to have fallen into a state of chaos as flames surged while astral winds gusted. Time passed. After an indeterminate amount of time, Lin Fan had delved completely into the world of the War King's World Extinguishing Fist. Within the state of consciousness of this skill, Lin Fan was like the god of war himself, battling against an endless amount of ancient race beings in the battlefields of the ancient times. With a fist into the heavens and one onto the earth, no one in this world could block his might. Ding! War King's World Extinguishing Fist evolved. Ding! Doomsday Calamity God Fist. Suddenly, Lin Fan's eyes burst open as a beam of light shot out. Finally, the War King's World Extinguishing Fist has evolved. Time to cultivate it into a true skill seed. This infinite slaughter ancient realm was a precious place indeed. Taking in these killing intents was as good as popping pills for the War King's world-extinguishing fist. However, Lin Fan also understood that the reason for this was due to his system's ability to convert the killing intent. Otherwise, even if it were Zhan Wudi, he would have to take another couple, no, dozens of years before he could raise the War King's world-extinguishing fist to its peak. Cultivate. Lin Fan suddenly hollered out as the true energy within his body rumbled. The surrounding killing intent in his vicinity began to surge through his body. The figure of a doomsday calamity demon god appeared within his body suddenly, howling balefully before it shrank continuously into a brightly shining seed. This was the true skill seed of Doomsday Calamity God Fist. The moment Doomsday Calamity God Fist was cultivated, Lin Fan could feel the power level of his body rising rapidly. Not bad, not bad. Even though Zhan Wudi was incredibly weak, the skill that he has learned is pretty decent. It is especially strong now that it has evolved. Lin Fan remarked in his heart. He then looked around at the infinite slaughter ancient realm. There wasn't much killing intent left now. He might as well suck it all in. However, just as Lin Fan was about to do it, he was distracted by a sound that rang out right by his ear. Chapter 516. Trying to scam yours truly. Chapter 516. Trying to scam yours truly. Little buddy there, you can't go on absorbing the rest of the killing intent here any longer. Otherwise, the infinite slaughter ancient realm will cease to exist altogether. Just as Lin Fan was preparing to absorb the rest of the killing intent, this unknown voice rang out in his ears from nowhere. Who's there? Lin Fan frowned. To think that there would be someone else within this infinite slaughter ancient realm. And he had got some capabilities, for him to avoid detection by Lin Fan. Who I am does not matter. But please, little buddy, please have mercy and spare the remaining killing intent in this place. The voice rang through once more. It was calm and relaxed, without any bit of change in it. Lin Fan checked out his surroundings warily. Other than the musky dust all around him, there was nothing else. But where in the world was this voice coming from? That was weird indeed. Since there's this bit left, leaving it would not help much either. I might as well suck it all in. Lin Fan did not know who the other party was. However, if yours truly were such an obedient person, he wouldn't have lived the way he had until today. If this person had truly wanted to keep the killing intent intact, he wouldn't have chosen to keep himself hidden from the start till now. This person would have appeared to stop him the moment he had started that berserk suction of the killing intent earlier on. But by the current situation, it was evident that this fella's intent was not to kill him. Did this mean that he was afraid of yours truly? Furthermore, even though Lin Fan had received some bounties upon entering this infinite slaughter ancient realm, he hadn't gotten anything that was superbly big. Thus, that left him pretty displeased. No, the killing intent has a self-regenerating property. Even though it may take a couple of 100 years for the killing intent to recover to its initial state, if you suck it dry completely, the entire infinite slaughter ancient realm will be destroyed and disappear from the ancient saint world forever. The voice rang out once more, this time a little more hurried. Let it be destroyed then. Yours truly has made a round trip here without obtaining a single treasure. How can I be satisfied leaving here without anything at all? Even though this killing intent isn't anything majestic, it can serve as a consolation prize at least. Lin Fan wanted to see how the other party would react to this statement. The mysterious voice remained silent for some time without speaking up. Could I persuade you to leave if I gave you a treasure? The mystery person asked. All right, but I'll have you know that I wouldn't be satisfied with just any mere treasure. Lin Fan had not expected this mystery person to offer him a treasure. But how could this be as well? There was no such thing as a free lunch in this world. For this person to offer him a treasure like this, someone who was unaccountably solicitous, he must be hiding evil intentions. However, Lin Fan was curious towards the identity of this mystery person. To be able to remain well hidden within the infinite slaughter ancient realm while avoiding detection altogether, Lin Fan could not deny his talent. Instantly, the void rippled as a passageway appeared before Lin Fan. Come on in, I'll bring you over to my side. Lin Fan checked out the passageway for a moment before striding in. Upon his reappearance, Lin Fan found himself standing before a mountain cave. Attempting to step in, the voice rang out once more. You wouldn't be able to enter this place. This old man here has been entrapped by those ancient race beings for tens of thousands of years now. If you are able to enter, I would have been able to leave long ago as well. The ancient race had used the infinite slaughter ancient realm as a foundation to trap me within here. If that place is destroyed, this old man here will never be able to leave ever again. Hence, I implore for you, little buddy, to show some magnanimity. This old man will not treat you shabbily. From that speech, Lin Fan was utterly convinced that a powerful being was residing within this place. However, he remained distrustful of these words. I've yet to inquire about your name, senior. Lin Fan cusped his fists before the mountain cave. There was a bright glow of light gleaming at the cave, as though it was a seal of sorts. Lin Fan wasn't too familiar with seals in general. Therefore, he did not know what sort of a thing that was. This old man here is the Patriarch Azure Saint. Lin Fan had never heard of this name before. Because of that, he did not know what sort of a person this Patriarch Azure Saint was. However, Lin Fan was mindful of being wary instead of trusting the words of this Patriarch Azure Saint instantly. This old man here has kept a treasure hidden for some time now. It's time to compensate my little buddy, you then. Suddenly, the void rippled as an item appeared before Lin Fan. The moment Lin Fan caught sight of the item, his brows creased. It was a piece of talisman paper. N-O-V-E in .C ohm. The talisman was yellow in color, with all sorts of weird symbols inscribed on it. All of these symbols glowed with a golden shine. Lin Fan could not make out what it was. This is the Heaven Saint Imperial Talisman. It possesses many marvelous usages. Using this could increase the grade of one's treasure. Upon hearing these words, Lin Fan's heart swayed a little. Increasing the grade of one's treasure. He had got to be kidding, right? If that were the case and Lin Fan used this talisman on Demon City, it could instantly turn from a supreme grade spirit weapon to a Dao weapon. That was bloody overpowered. Little buddy, all you have to do is infuse your true energy within it and refine it. My only request is for you to not let anyone else know of this place after you get out, little buddy. Patriarch Azure Saint's voice rang through once more. Lin Fan did not reply as he took this shiny talisman into his hands. Ding! Discovered Devil's Switching Talisman. Devil's Switching Talisman. Once the other party infuses their true energy within it, one could exchange their bodies with the other party. Holy F***CK. Lin Fan's facial expression did not change at all. However, his heart was stampeding like African wildlife right now. Heaven Saint Imperial Talisman my ass. FCK your mother. Indeed, it's as yours truly had guessed. There's no such thing as a free lunch in this world. Lin Fan lamented within his heart. At the same time, he was filled with some curiosity towards this Patriarch Azure Saint now. Most of the time, all of these bad guys who loved to pull off these dirty tricks were just a bunch of pansies. Lin Fan did not believe that yours truly couldn't FCK him up real good. Suddenly, Lin Fan's expression changed into one of immense gratitude as tears poured down his face while he cupped his fists. Oh, my generous senior. Doesn't matter. It is the great hope of the thousands of races out there for me to be able to meet with a talented little buddy of your caliber in my lifetime. How about you start refining the talisman here, little buddy? This old man here will send you on your way later on. Patriarch Azure Saint chirped happily. Oh, but there's something you don't know about, senior. As someone of the thousands of races out there, this junior here hasn't had the chance to come across a treasure at all. Even if I were to refine this talisman, it would be useless for me. I might as well leave with this talisman and hope to exchange it for a pretty good treasure out there with someone else. Lin Fan acted like he was filled with immense regrets and helplessness. Within the cave, Patriarch Azure Saint had not expected the other party would react in this manner. He was startled and couldn't speak for a moment. What's wrong with you, senior? Lin Fan asked on. Little buddy, you've got no idea. This Heaven Saint Imperial Talisman was created with this old man's tireless efforts. If you leave this infinite slaughter ancient realm, the talisman will lose its powers. As long as you refine it here and turn it into your personal possession, you can then head out there and exchange it with anyone else easily. Patriarch Azure Saint replied. Holy FCK, this guy is hell-bent on scamming yours truly. To think that he could come up with this lame *s reason. Who knows how many others he's managed to scam. Lin Fan was rife with insults in his heart. However, his outer facial appearance did not change in the slightest bit. I guess this junior here has no choice but to refine it here then. Lin Fan relented. Good. Within the cave, it was pitch black. A set of blackened bones were pinned down onto the ground with some rusty old nails. One could only wonder how long this corpse had remained here for there to not even be any blood left. Above the corpse was a tuft of black mist. This was the so-called Patriarch Azure Saint. Chapter 517. Actually, Lin Fan is really sharp. Chapter 517. Actually, Lin Fan is really sharp. Patriarch Azure Saint was leaping with joy in his heart. Refine it. Hurry and refine it. As long as true energy surged in, that would be the blossoming of his spring once more. He had been sealed in this place for a really, really long time now. It had been so long that he had even lost track of time. The infinite slaughter ancient realm was a cursed place to Patriarch Azure Saint. Damn it, those of the human race are damned B********. To think that they'd dare to seal me here. He had been sealed here for tens of thousands of years now. The energy that was powering the seal was, in fact, the killing intent of the secret ground. This killing intent possessed the battle hunger of powerful beings from all the thousands of races out there. As long as this battle hunger did not disappear, he would never be able to make it out. But to top it off, the infuriating thing was that if the killing intent were to disappear entirely, the infinite slaughter ancient realm would cease to exist, and so would he. Therefore, for the past tens of thousands of years, Patriarch Azure Saint did not know what he would do, and could only endure the loneliness and suffering of being trapped here. However, his opportunity had finally arrived. To think that an ignorant being of the thousands of races out there would use a unique skill to suck up all the killing intent within the place, leaving just that bit left that was enough to sustain the infinite slaughter ancient realm. This was the opportunity of a lifetime for Patriarch Azure Saint. How could he let this slip? And the most heartening thing right now to him was that this being of the thousands of races out there had lost himself in the face of this treasure, and was completely trusting his words. Patriarch Azure Saint understood that the beings of the thousands of races out there craved for power as well as these immensely rare opportunities. To these beings, he as the Patriarch Azure Saint was the type of opportunity they were waiting for. Refine, hurry up and refine it. Patriarch Azure Saint had had enough of being trapped in this godforsaken place. As long as this naive being would refine the so-called Heaven Saint Imperial Talisman, he would be able to swap bodies with the latter and finally rid himself of this world of torment. Senior, I shall begin refining then, all right. Lin Fan grinned. To the Patriarch, this grin was ever so laughable and cute. He had not expected himself to get this lucky by meeting a fool for this precious opportunity of a lifetime. Little buddy, refine with utmost ease. As fellow comrades of the thousands of races out there, we must stand firm against the ancient race together. Patriarch Azure Saint urged Lin Fan on. All right, Lin Fan chuckled, but just as he was about to refine it, he stopped. That's right, Senior. Do you think that those of the ancient race are not only stupid, but really despicable as well? Patriarch Azure Saint was stunned for a moment. He did not know why the other party was asking questions as such. However, there was no time for him to be hesitating right now as he replied hurriedly, that's right. The ancient race is incredibly stupid. All of them are despicable. Even though Patriarch Azure Saint was a little angered within his heart, his tone remained hurried. After all, no matter what he had to say, the main thing was that he had to get out of this place right now. Lin Fan chuckled out, that's right. That's what I think as well. Little buddy, hurry up and refine it. You're the only one in this world deserving of a treasure like this. Patriarch Azure Saint continued. Lin Fan smirked as he fondled the Heaven Saint Imperial Talisman in his fingers. Suddenly, a true skill seed churned as Bigra surged within Lin Fan's body. Senior, I'm already transferring my true energy within it. Please receive it with my regards. Lin Fan spoke up. Sure, Patriarch Azure Saint was excited right now. However, he suddenly frowned. What did you just say? Hey, small fry, you want to play with yours truly? Alrighty then, prepare to receive this massive gift of yours truly. With a cold laugh, Bigra burst forth from within Lin Fan's body. This boundless amount of Bigra turned into a huge dragon, diving headfirst into the talisman. The effects of Bigra were heavenly defying. No matter what sort of a living being it was, as long as they were alive, they would definitely be doomed by it. The Heaven Saint Imperial Talisman, also known as Devil Switching Talisman, was directly linked to the Patriarch Azure Saint. However, even if he were to find anything amiss right now, it'd all be too late. What's this? Patriarch Azure Saint found himself on the receiving end of a large amount of energy. He had thought that this was true energy. However, he realized in horror that this energy was extremely invasive. Even though this was only a strain of his consciousness, it could penetrate right within his entire will. No, the Patriarch burst out into a roar. That initially feeble strain of consciousness suddenly turned extremely lively. The burst of this energy came at the cost of his body's source. A desire he had never once felt before surged within his mind right now. He wanted to resist it. However, he realized that this energy surpassed and bypassed every single thing as it went straight into the root of his soul. Just who in the world are you? The Patriarch howled out, unable to believe everything that was happening before him. I've no wish to reply that question of yours. Alright, Listen up then. Yours truly is just a man that makes you horny. Lin Fan replied frostily, don't you want my true energy to swap with my body? Alright, yours truly shall fulfill your wish today and let you enjoy yourself thoroughly. How could you have realized? Upon hearing these words, Patriarch Azure Saint panicked. He had disguised the Heaven Saint Imperial Talisman perfectly. Even a powerful being of desolate celestial state wouldn't be able to tell it all. But what he did not account for was the fact that even though Lin Fan's innate cultivation state wasn't that high, he had the strongest system ever. In front of the system, any cover-up was meaningless. Haha, haven't I made myself clear from the start? Every single one of the ancient race beings are dumb *CKS. And you yourself have agreed with me. Well, at this point of time, can you deny the fact that you're all dumb *CKS? Lin Fan chuckled out. Right now, with the keen observation of his Bigra, Lin Fan discovered that this was just a single strain of consciousness that possessed no real harm at all. It could only mystify and deceive others. You're just a strain of consciousness without any cultivation state at all. How dare you play the fool before yours truly? Yours truly shall let you know the consequences of doing so today. With a holler, Lin Fan shifted and dashed towards the mountain cave. Patriarch Azure Saint was in a dazed state right now as his consciousness reverberated wildly, you can't enter here. The seal of this mountain cave isn't something you can remove. Wait, what? Even though the situation had unfolded as such, Patriarch Azure Saint wasn't afraid of Lin Fan in the least bit. While he could not make head or tails of the situation, he knew that it was going to be a dream if this guy thought that he could just enter the cave to take him down. After all, the seal of this mountain cave was something that even a desolate celestial full cultivation being wouldn't able to take down at all. However, he realized in shock that this fellow was able to make his way in. To think that the seal would do nothing to him at all. And no, impossible. Patriarch Azure Saint howled madly, unable to believe what had just happened. Lin Fan did not know what this fellow was whining all about. Even though this Patriarch Azure Saint was just a strain of consciousness without any cultivation state, Lin Fan knew that he must definitely be some powerful being out there. Therefore, this strain of consciousness must be impossibly strong as well. If he could absorb this within Demon City, it would definitely be a huge boon. Little trash, yours truly is here. A piece of junk like you had better heed the words of yours truly carefully. Acting tough is costly. How dare you impersonate a powerful being in front of me? Courting death. Lin Fan yelled crazily before he darted into the cave. The butcher knife had long been raised. Lin Fan was determined to butcher this guy today. Chapter 518, Shard of the Legendary Weapon. Chapter 518, Shard of the Legendary Weapon. Within the cave, everything was really normal. It wasn't some treasure ground as Lin Fan had imagined it to be. This cave was sinister and eerie. By the time Lin Fan came to the end of the cave, he caught sight of a black tuft of smoke ramming repeatedly against the wall. He then smirked. Haha, seems like you're the one who was playing the fool, How's it now? Do you feel like your life's coming to an end now? Lin Fan laughed maniacally. As the saying went, life is always filled with dangers lurking around the corner. Lin Fan himself had personally gone through a similar experience with this B***** named Seven Saint. Hence, he had always been wary towards these self-proclaimed powerful beings. Powerful beings were beings that were afraid of death as well. Furthermore, the more powerful they were, the more afraid of death they should be. Why would they toss away an opportunity of a lifetime to some outsider just like that? Given the fact that Lin Fan had a system, nothing could escape his true sight. Deceiving yours truly. Dream on, fools. How dare he try to pass off a devil-switching talisman as a Heaven Saint Imperial talisman? That was shammy to the max. Back in the past, Lin Fan would always be envious of the different miraculous encounters that the main characters would always seem to come across. However, if he were to think back properly, perhaps none of those main characters were truly themselves anymore after that. Those power-ups of the main characters might all have been because they had been overtaken by these powerful beings. Who in the world would give you such a lovely chance encounter for free? You. The black tuft of consciousness snarled at Lin Fan and pounced forward. He was bent on ripping this guy to shreds. Shreds. How dare you act so insolently as just a single strain of consciousness? I wonder who gave you that sort of courage. With a holler, Lin Fan summoned his demon city. Devour him. The big ancient demon above the demon city roared wildly. Ripping through the void with a single swipe of his hand, he grabbed out at Patriarch Azure Saint. Impossible. The big ancient demon has fallen long ago. How could he have been turned into a weapon? The moment Patriarch Azure Saint caught sight of the big ancient demon, he screamed out in disbelief. The big ancient demon opened his mouth widely. A vortex appeared, sucking the strain of consciousness right in. Smelt. That resilient consciousness of Patriarch Azure Saint struggled within the big ancient demon's body. However, it was smelted in a matter of seconds. Impossible. Those were the last words of Patriarch Azure Saint's maddened howls as he disappeared into silence thereafter. HMPH. What a trash. Lin Fan snorted in disdain. At the same time, Demon City's power levels rocketed once more. If he were to continue along this way, he might be able to upgrade it into a Dao weapon without even gathering the 5 spirits. Power was the way of the world. As long as he could accumulate enough power, he could even break the normal regulations binding this world. Lin Fan did not know who it was that had set all these rules and requirements that one had to adhere to before upgrading their weapons. As long as he had enough power, he was sure that he could bypass all of these and just forcefully upgrade it up. However, the fact that the Patriarch Azure Saint could recognize the big ancient demon had Lin Fan pretty bewildered. This was to say that the Patriarch Azure Saint must have existed for a really long time now. In fact, he must have existed even before the big ancient demon's fall, and might have exchanged blows with it as well. Even though this Patriarch Azure Saint did not give yours truly any experience points, he did help Demon City level up. This is quite a decent encounter indeed. Even though Lin Fan was slightly dejected, he was more than satisfied within his heart. At the same time, he was once again realizing the danger of the path he was treading on. To think that he would be meeting with scammers everywhere he went. Seemed like he really ought to be really careful from now on. If he were to get greedy over some small gains, he might die without even knowing how he did. 2 bodies. Checking out his surroundings, Lin Fan caught sight of 2 corpses within this hollow cave. One of the corpses was buried so deeply in the walls that it was about to fuse together as one with the walls itself. However, it still seemed pristine as new. The moment Lin Fan touched the corpse gently with his fingers, it disintegrated into dust. That corpse belongs to someone of the human race as well. The moment Lin Fan touched it, he could tell. The bodies of humans were innately weak. The only way for a human to have their bodies remain without corrosion for eternity was after they had managed to cultivate it to a certain state. Even though the physical body state of that particular corpse was strong, that person had probably expended every single last bit of his energy before dying. In fact, the person might have even activated any other innate potential that was within the physical body state itself. As such, the body had reverted to that of a normal being's, which couldn't resist the ruthlessness of time. Just who in the world is that? Lin Fan was curious as he tossed his glance over at the other wall. There was another corpse. Lin Fan presumed that this should have belonged to Patriarch Azure Saint. This corpse was slightly larger, probably that of an ancient race beings. The ancient race had an advantage over the other races with their intrinsic strengths. Therefore, even post-death, their pitch-black bones were still lustrous as ever. What's this? Lin Fan's attention lingered over to a broken shard on the body of the Patriarch Azure Saint. This shard looked pretty normal, without much of a glow. One could not see the difference through physical appearances alone. However, Lin Fan could sense from deep within that this shard was definitely different. VRRRRRRRRRR. Suddenly, the eternal axe within Lin Fan's storage began to vibrate. What's going on? Lin Fan could not understand at the start. However, he took out the eternal axe nevertheless. The moment the eternal axe was retrieved, it floated into the air. Emitting a burst of energy from it, the entire shard was encompassed within as well. Could this be a shard of the eternal axe? Lin Fan's expression changed immediately. The eternal axe was a legendary weapon to begin with. The only reason why its strength had taken a beating was because it was damaged. But with this supernatural phenomenon, it was evident that this shard had something to do with the eternal axe. For the eternal axe, there existed the heaven-splitting 3 stances. Right now, Lin Fan had only learned one of them, firmament. Yet, this one skill alone had been extremely beneficial, reaping him a godly improvement in his skills. If this were truly a shard of the eternal axe, there should be a second stance within this once they were fused together. And if he could learn this second stance, his power level would definitely spike up once more. Instantly, a burst of light shot forth from the broken shard, presenting an image in the void. Back when the eternal axe was damaged, the shard had ripped through the void and was lost between the heaven and earth. It was then obtained by a single man from the human race. After relentless hard work over the years, he had managed to craft a longsword out of that shard from the eternal axe. The moment the long sword took shape, everything changed as calamity befell the world, turning it into a Tao weapon. Eventually, this man from the human race had engaged in a great battle with the ancient race beings. Using overwhelming strength, he managed to overpower this ancient race being. However, he had expended his entire life's energy as a result of that, and had perished here as well. Each and every one of these scenes were etched within Lin Fan's heart. This man from the human race wasn't someone like the heavenly Emperor Yuan and the others. However, for the sake of overthrowing the ancient race, he had cast his life aside. To that, Lin Fan gave his utmost respect. Shing, the broken shard revolved around the eternal axe, not fusing for the longest time. With that, Lin Fan understood something. After such a long time, the eternal axe was forced to compensate for the loss of its shard by reshaping itself inherently. As such, there was no longer a place where this shard could fit in anymore. Heaven and earth smelt. Lin Fan did not hesitate as he summoned his heaven and earth smelt and tossed the shard and his eternal axe within it. With the heaven and earth smelt, that issue would no longer be an issue. Chapter 519, My Heart is Bleeding. Chapter 519, My Heart is Bleeding. November LBJNN. The eternal axe was a legendary weapon to begin with. But after its destruction in a great battle, the spirit within the weapon itself was on the brink of destruction as well. After countless years of self-rejuvenating, it had finally revived once more. However, the power of the weapon had dipped significantly from its mighty awe back then. If the eternal axe truly had to be graded right now, it could be considered to be a supreme grade Tao weapon. However, it did not possess any properties or abilities that a Tao weapon should have. Other than being resilient and tenacious, it didn't have any other use at all. Smelt. Fused together. Ding. Congratulations on smelting. The heaven and earth smelt shook for a little bit before the lid slammed open. A razor-sharp aura surged out with immense force, slicing the boundaries of the infinite slaughter ancient realm into lines of tears. An endless amount of energy streams surged forth from the void. Right now, the infinite slaughter ancient realm was only left with a single strain of killing intent. Once Lin Fan absorbed this strain of consciousness, the entire infinite slaughter ancient realm would cease to exist entirely in the ancient saint world. To think that it would still remain as a supreme grade Tao weapon after fusing. Seems like there are still quite a number of broken shards out there. This was just a single shard out of all of them. Lin Fan gripped the eternal axe tightly in his hands. The aura surged immediately as though he was a peerless god of war, piercing through the clouds straight into the peak of the heavens. Ding. Congratulations on discovering heaven splitting 3 stances. Second stance, destruction. Do you wish to comprehend? Comprehend. Lin Fan was elated in his heart. Even though the eternal axe did not evolve because of this shard, he had obtained the second stance of the heaven splitting 3 stances. This could be considered pretty decent as well. Suddenly, Lin Fan found his consciousness tossed within a state of unbridled mysteries. Within this mysterious consciousness realm, Lin Fan caught sight of that peerlessly mighty gigantic figure once more. The moment he opened his eyes, the entire ground quaked as a gigantic shockwave rippled throughout the world. Lin Fan could actually feel the repressing pressure of that wave. So strong. Wielding the eternal axe, the giant cleaved out. That single cleave brought about an unceasing destruction of the heaven and earth, disintegrating everything in its path and bringing them with it into the void. Herg. A single war cry burst out from the giant's mouth, causing Lin Fan to jerk awake immediately. Ding. Congratulations on comprehending heaven splitting 3 stances. Second stance, destruction. To think that it would be so forceful. Lin Fan could not help but exclaim. Shifting his eyelids, he cleaved out with the axe. Destruction. The axe gleamed brightly as the entire infinite slaughter ancient realm quaked violently once more. With that single cleave, the void was split cleanly, causing torrents of energy to gush out like a waterfall. Instantly, the space within the entire infinite slaughter ancient realm began to topple down. Incredible. To think that a single strike could take down the entire infinite slaughter ancient realm. Catching sight of the scene before him, Lin Fan could not help but be startled by the magnificent strength of it all. Shifting nimbly, he sprinted out of the entire place. Boom. Looking at everything caving in from all directions, it was as though everything was about to turn into nothingness. Turning around, Lin Fan was equally dumbfounded by the sight before him. However, his face suddenly changed as he cried out in a heart-wrenching pain, treasures. Lin Fan had not expected a huge ton of precious treasures to be flung within the collapse of the infinite slaughter ancient realm right before its destruction. Holy F! *CK. Are the ancient race all just a bunch of dumb *CKS? How could there still be so many treasures left after they had maintained control over this infinite slaughter ancient realm for such a long period of time? Lin Fan's heart was dripping with blood right now. To think that he had to watch the destruction of so many treasures into that torrent of surging energy with his very eyes. Even though his physical body state was already that of an azure celestial lower level, he did not dare to attempt leaping into this berserk torrent of energy to try to grab hold of some treasures. Pain, heart-wrenching pain. Lin Fan felt like a sharp knife had just found its way to pierce deep into the very depths of his heart. This was a pain he couldn't even describe with mere words. If the heavens were to give him one more chance, he definitely wouldn't destroy this infinite slaughter ancient realm with his itchy fingers. He would definitely cherish the chance to seek out these treasures thoroughly. However, it was all too late for regrets right now. Boom, like the toppling of a high-rise building, the dimensions broke apart as every single thing was sucked in. Culminating to a single point, a gigantic explosion burst forth as a massive shockwave was sent echoing out of the blast radius. Everything was turned into dust. Nothing was left. The infinite slaughter ancient realm had ceased to exist in the ancient saint world from this point forth. It's gone. Lin Fan stood at an empty spot, looking at the void which the infinite slaughter ancient realm used to occupy with extreme pain. He was filled with immense regrets right now. Even the gigantic stone door had disappeared, as though it was never there in the first place. Highs. Lin Fan's sigh was filled with helplessness. Who could truly understand the pain he was in right now? However, he adjusted to normalcy pretty quickly as well. Fine, so what if it was gone? Yours truly didn't need treasures like these to raise his power level. And, it was probably for the better now that the infinite slaughter ancient realm was gone. At least, those dumb *CKS from the ancient race couldn't use this as an excuse for the beings of the thousands of races out there to commit massacres anymore. He had made sure to kill everyone else who had entered this time around, except for that darned Mutian who had managed to escape. And that fella had a spirit vein in his possession. Lin Fan did not know the sort of powers or abilities a spirit vein would provide to its user, but he reminded himself to be careful from here on forth. Seemed like he had made his first enemy in the ancient saint world. But of course, yours truly wasn't afraid in the least bit. Back in the Xuanwang world, yours truly had scammed a FCK ton of people. But still, yours truly made it out dandy and well. Suddenly, the void vibrated as a group of figures appeared. Lin Fan frowned, thinking that it was a group of ancient race beings who had rushed over to hunt for his life upon sensing the destruction of the infinite slaughter ancient realm. However, when he caught sight of those who had arrived, he heaved a sigh of relief. They weren't ancient race beings, but from the thousands of races out there. Halt there, who are you? Just as Lin Fan was about to leave, a man who was wielding a longsword in the void asked him sternly. Lin Fan took a look at the man in the sky. He was elegant and lofty, strutting his chest upright, with his posture resembling that of a longsword itself. This man was surrounded by a strong sword will. Evidently, he should be someone from the sword race. And who are you guys? Lin Fan's face crumpled. Since this guy was acting a little cocky, Lin Fan did not have to be polite to him at all. HMPH. Looking at how arrogant the other party was, the man snorted coldly. With that, a massive amount of sword will burst out, covering Lin Fan's body like a cage. If you don't wish to die, you had better answer my question. He cried out authoritatively as his gaze swept through the surroundings. He was bewildered by something. Where was the infinite slaughter ancient realm? There were both men and women who were gathered around this man. All of them were cheery and chirpy, as though they had a complete disregard for Lin Fan. Lin Fan's brows creased as he stepped forth. Churning his true skill seed, firmament sword burst forth. The sword will that Lin Fan exerted cancelled out the opposing sword will from the man immediately. The man exclaimed in surprise, somewhat curious now. Seems like you've got some capabilities. However, there's been innumerable people with capabilities who had died in the hands of the sword god, me, Yan Jingtian. Brother Yan, this man is acting really shifty. How about let's take him down? I'll use my soul-searching technique to make out what this man was really up to then. A devilish-looking girl beside Yan Jingtian smirked. Her eyes shone cruelly as though Lin Fan was nothing but a prey to her. Haha, Sister Bailing's soul-searching technique is unparalleled in this world. As long as anyone's souls were searched through, they would cough out the truth about everything immediately. We have made our way here to the infinite slaughter ancient realm only to find it disappearing entirely. Evidently, this man must know something about this weird phenomenon. That's right. For him to appear right at the side of the secret ground, he must have come out from within and had obtained some sort of treasure. If we can kill him and snatch away the treasure, that would be a pretty happy occasion too. Upon hearing these words, Lin Fan's heart tightened. Seemed like this bunch of people here were out to murder others for their treasures. Chapter 520, Come over and take it. Chapter 520, Come over and take it. To think that these fellas would dare to entertain the thoughts of massacring for treasures in front of yours truly. What a bunch of amateurs. Back when yours truly was robbing the sh*t out of everyone else in Xuanwang world, who knew where these kiddos were? How dare they act so impertinently before the ancestor of the art of robbery? What a bunch of fools. Furthermore, these guys were only getting more brazen by the moment. One of them wanted to poke yours truly to death with his sword will. One of them wanted to search his soul, while one of them even wanted to loot his treasure by killing him. Looking at this bunch of fellas, Lin Fan chuckled frostily in his heart. Hey, are you guys really going kill me to snatch away my treasure? Lin Fan pretended to stumble a few steps back while exclaiming in shock. Haha, to think that this fella here could be so silly. It took you so long to figure out something so simple. What's our purpose for heading over to the Infinite Slaughter Ancient Realm this time around? Of course, we're here to camp for those people exiting the secret ground while slaughtering them for their treasures. Why you guys? How could you harbor such thoughts? We're all beings of the thousands of races out there. We should stand together against the ancient race. How could you kill me? Lin Fan's heart was already in deep turmoil over the loss of all those treasures he could have gotten from the secret ground. How could he not make use of this golden opportunity here to troll these guys and soothe the pain in his heart along the way? Haha, take a look, we had this guy so afraid that he's stuttering right now. Thousands of races. FCK that. This world is the survival of the fittest, where only the strongest shall reign as the king. For ants like you, even if we don't kill you, the ancient race would kill you for sure. We might as well make the fullest use of you by taking all of your items for ourselves then. The group of people was jeering cheerily as they taunted Lin Fan. Judging from their relaxed demeanor, apparently, this wasn't the first time they had done something like this. Little brother there, hurry up and hand over your stuff. Also, tell your big sister here where the others are as well. If you don't, a grab by this big sister here is going to pierce through your skull. Bailing pursed her gentle lips as she giggled. Her seductive gaze was extremely captivating. Ah, and no, you guys can't do this. I haven't gotten anything much either. Just a little something. Lin Fan acted as though he was extremely nervous, as he tried to rummage through his storage ring. Look here, all I found inside was this supreme-grade spirit weapon. Lin Fan took out his demon city from his storage. The moment he took it out, Yan Jingtian and the others shuddered for a moment as their eyes shone with endless lust and greed. To think that the first item to come out of this guy's hands was a supreme-grade spirit weapon straight up. Oh, and this too. I managed to obtain this within. Lin Fan took out the Eternal Axe. The moment the Eternal Axe was revealed, the crowd bustled with excitement once more. A single supreme-grade spirit weapon was more than enough to rouse them up. To think that there would even be a supreme-grade Dao weapon within the mix. A supreme-grade Dao weapon. Just what else did this fella manage to obtain within? This is my first time seeing a supreme-grade Dao weapon. That thing could be considered priceless. Just how brightly is Lady Luck shining on this fella? How could anyone obtain a supreme-grade Dao weapon within the Infinite Slaughter Ancient Realm? November LBJNN. What else is there? Yan Jingtian's throat was dry right now as his heart thumped furiously. These two treasures alone were more than dazzling and attractive enough. Even he himself did not possess a single Dao weapon, let alone a supreme-grade Dao weapon. Over the years, they had massacred a number of people. Amongst them, the highest weapon they had ever obtained was a middle-grade spirit weapon. To think that this guy would have a supreme-grade spirit weapon and a supreme-grade Dao weapon. If anyone else were to discover this, they would surely wage wars over these items. Oh, that's about it, along with some of these pills which could increase one's cultivation states. The attention of Yan Jingtian and everyone else was on the supreme-grade Dao weapon. They did not place much emphasis on Lin Fan's mention of pills. After all, pills were something that they could cultivate themselves. But suddenly, something jaw-dropping happened. Brr. Like a waterfall, countless pills were being poured out of Lin Fan's storage before them. This is the Yuanling pill. After consuming it, one's wisdom would increase, leading to a spike in their innate potential. This is the Shengyang pill, a pill commonly used in the ancient saint world. I found a mere 3 million of them inside. All of these fellas were completely stupefied by the items right now. This feeling of flaunting one's wealth was simply way too awesome. 3 million Shengyang pills. That's horrifyingly incredible. Even if we were to devour the Saint Spirit Chi and cultivate pills with it, we would only be able to cultivate tens of thousands per day. Just what sort of a treasure trove did this guy bump into for him to obtain this much? Yan Jingtian's heart was pumping furiously. This wasn't fear he was feeling, it was excitement. If he could obtain all these, he would have truly made it. Shengyang pills could be considered as the currency within the ancient saint world. This was a pill that could only be cultivated through taking in Saint Spirit Chi. The higher one's cultivation state was, the more Saint Spirit Chi they could take in and breathe out. However, no matter who it was, they would have to make use of the Saint Spirit Chi to train. Who would have the spare time to cultivate out stuff like these? But now that this abundant amount of wealth had descended right before their faces, everyone was totally stumped. Lin Fan had only ascended to the ancient saint world recently, and did not know how to cultivate these Shengyang pills. He only knew about these pills after he obtained the ancient saint world's secret records. The usages of Shengyang pill were plenty. Not only could it replenish the true energy within one's body, it could also cause treasures to go berserk, unleashing their strength and potential. If he had known of this marvelous pill from the start, Lin Fan would have started creating it a long time ago. But, better late than never. After all, he had the mythical parasol tree. The amount of Saint Spirit Chi he took in every day was comparable to the boundless seas. Rich, we've struck gold, haha, seems like this wasn't a wasted trip after all. Brother Yan, we've really got lucky this time around. To think that all of these treasures would be found by some dumb greenhorn. This came way too easily for us, didn't it? God bless, God bless. Right now, the group of people were extremely excited. After all, they had just struck it rich. Within the ancient saint world, resources were scarce. If they wanted resources, they would have to snatch it over from the jaws of the ancient race. However, the risk associated with doing that was immense. Therefore, unless they were really desperate for it, most people would choose not to clash with the ancient race. Yan Jingtian took in a cold breath before he steadied his mind. Hand over everything you've got, and we can spare your life. Upon seeing these treasures, Yan Jingtian was bent on obtaining them at all costs. However, there were so many people right now. It'd be a real pity to share it with all of them, wouldn't it? But, the most important task was getting those items in his hands first. He would decide what to do with the rest of the group later on. As long as you don't kill me, you can come over and take them all. Lin Fan looked at Yan Jingtian. Looking at Lin Fan, Yan Jingtian suddenly hesitated for a moment. Big brother Yan, I'll go and retrieve them. A young man of the Wings race volunteered earnestly. The young man from the Wings race was viewing these treasures with a look of lust as well. Hold on, Yan Jingtian stopped him. How could Yan Jingtian allow anyone else to take those treasures? Furthermore, this was someone from the Wings race. Everyone knew that beings of the Wings race had an extremely strong innate potential. With a single flap of their wings, they could rip through the void and disappear in an instant. Even for him whose cultivation state was higher than the young man of the Wings race, chasing up to that speed might not be possible. Yan Jingtian could feel something cryptic about this. He was afraid that this man before him might be laying a trap for him. Hence, he began to ponder. Big brother Yan, I've been with you for such a long time now. Don't you trust me? The young man from the Wings race was smiling. However, he could not conceal the strange look in his eyes. It's not that, I'll take it, Yan Jingtian replied before striding out towards Lin Fan step by step. Lin Fan stood before the mountain of treasures while laughing coldly in his heart. He was waiting patiently for the arrival of Yan Jingtian before him.